Okay, I'm getting better at that. Hey, everybody, happy Friday night. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the SB Nation because Scientology, the big lie, is actually monetized. So I'm really happy about that because not having worked since I left Gold, and now with the actors and writers strike preventing any kind of work from happening in Hollywood, and not wanting to go, get some, like a sustenance job, which means I'd have to leave the channel and so forth. I'm really happy about that. And it's all because of you guys. So thank you to SB Nation. Speaking of which, I just have to say hello, Marilyn. A couple of things here. Hey, Mitch, Page Girl, uh, Driver Uber Lyft. Great name. That's cracking me up for sure. Anyway, I just want to give Aaron Smith Levin a little bit of a shout out that is kind of overdue for me because he's been a big help. But the other night, I think when I had Catherine Olson, I was interviewing her. I mentioned something about the SB Nation becoming blowing up to the point where it's now a country, and somebody sent me a message, put a comment on the video that I was correct that it's now a country, but I just have to acknowledge Aaron for coining the phrase SB Nation. I think that's his, and I do consider him to be the founding father of the SB Nation. So, also, and let me see here. Also, I started an Indiegogo campaign just to raise $2,000 so I can finish my book because I realize it's done, and what's been so slow is that I'm trying to do it all myself. So that contact is in it's in the about section on my channel. So you might want to check that out. If there's anything you can do to help, it would be greatly appreciated. Because literally, I want to get it up at the end of September, sometime in October. So that's pretty much that. And then, because you guys know that I'm OCD about answering questions, I had a couple from, okay, here, hold on. Let me just do this. Let me just pull these up here. Bear with me. I have opposable thumbs, but only two of them. I don't know, Goldie, I don't know where the super chat is. Maybe I need to turn it on. I'm not sure, but I definitely got the letter from YouTube that I passed the review and all that. So I'll make sure that gets turned on. I thought it came on automatically, but maybe it doesn't. So, now, this was a really interesting question, and I wanted to address it. This was from Donna Dwyer on the Catherine Olson interview. She said, late to the party, but I'm late answering your question, so it's okay. She said, she asked if I have any copyrights to my Church of Scientology productions. Would I be able to block them from playing my movie productions? The answer is I have absolutely zero. One of the first things that they addressed with me when I went to work for them is that I would have absolutely no claim to any copyright, any ownership, or any control. And of course, I went along with that because my position as Scientologist, I was, privileged to be doing the work, good little Scientologist that I was. Of course, as the years went by and I saw just how much money they made off of those films. I mean, the technical training films that I did, those are essentially every org in the world that is eligible to play them has to buy a copy or multiple copies and then pay a rental fee and then pay a portion of all of the training fees that students sign up for on the courses where the films are shown. So boy, the stuff that I made and well beyond that, it was just like a cash cow. I mean, they're still making money off of it. Let me just see what else do we got here. Okay, so Yeah, there's a hyperlink for the Indiegogo campaign. It's in the About tab on my channel. You can check that out. Yeah, don't we all? It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I started, Mark and Claire noted that next week we will have more free time and is interested in doing a lot of videos with Mitch about all the projects they did. That would be fun. Yeah, I spoke with Claire, text spoke with Claire today, and I let her know that people have been like having interest in getting Mark and I together. I mean, because we worked together, well, for most of the time he was at Gold, and for a few of those years he was on the set with me every day, and so we had some amazing adventures in cult filmmaking. And if you watch Claire's the stream she did today with Celise Ansola from Cults to Consciousness, I haven't yet seen the whole thing, but she goes into great detail about describing Mark's personality, and it's what you would expect from a wife. But I can verify that she really nailed his personality. He's a talented guy and a great character, and I'm very grateful for everything they've both done. Yeah, she can't get rid of her. She's like luggage. She just never goes away. Goldie, we will never get sick of you, ever. Okay, what is this? This is at Mitch Brisker. Hey, Mitch, just wanted to let you know something you had said that affected me when speaking about what was positive back in Scientology. You said you can't separate the good from the bad. Well, yeah, I can't. I mean, in the sense that you think you can certainly separate it out for the sake of a conversation, but you can't separate it from the sake of what you're going to experience. Because those two things, no matter how hard you try to compartmentalize them, they're just locked together. And as I discovered, anybody who works long enough for Scientology, and this may also go for just being a member of that group, if you do it long enough, eventually you're going to become humiliated and traumatized, and your work, the credit for your work is going to be given to others, and you're going to be blamed for things you never did. So I may tattoo that on my arm. I'm not sure. So yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Goldie. If you could help me out with that, that's fantastic. Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm going to be people who donate, $50, whatever. When I get books, I'll be signing them and sending them out. So, and the amazing thing is, if you've read any book written by an ex-Scientologist and you think you've read them all, boy, you haven't, because I have read them all, and each one of them is so incredibly different. And has so much stuff in it that's relatable. I'm trying to order Liz Gale's book. For some reason, it's not indexed in my Amazonian part of the Amazon jungle. So I haven't been able to order it. So I need to reach out to her and have her maybe send me a direct link. Okay, good. So question. You mentioned children. How many do you have? Two that I know of. No, sorry about that. It's a bad joke. Yeah, I have two sons, remarkable individuals. They're adults, and they don't like particularly being spoken about on social media, but they're very talented. One is an editor, the other is a musician, and I'm very fortunate to know these two individuals because they blow my mind. Yeah, yeah, you need to watch that. I did an interview with Shalise. I thought she forgot about it, but she mentioned it to Claire on their stream today that she intends to do it. I did a wonderful interview with her. We spoke about gold because she had been up there. She told Claire about that today, but she'd actually, I heard her announce on one of her interviews with the next Scientologist that she'd actually been to gold as an actress. So my head exploded. I called her up. We had a great interview. I did an interview with her and her husband, who's just a charming guy. She does most of her streams by herself, but her husband's a director and a content creator, and I think he wanted to jump in. Let me see what we got going on here. Oh, there it is. Thank you so much. Hopefully it works. I like literally just set it up before the stream. Okay, so hey Mitch, please remind me when you left Scientology. It was, well, like everybody will tell you, nobody just leaves at once. There is a tipping point, but it takes a long time to get there. I left, let's just say, let's rephrase your question and say, when did I stop interacting with anybody from Scientology? And that began at lockdown in early 2020. And then over the course of, it took about a year, because I did continue to do some writing jobs for them, but I wouldn't go up there, and I minimized my interaction. And then I just one day, so it would have been really the day I called Jeff Hawkins and Mike Rinder, and that would have really been the day. And I think that was in October 2021. So I think that's the best question I could give you in terms of that. You know, when did you walk through the door kind of question. Mentally, I was spooning myself. You know, the boxes that I had compartmentalized all of my experience into were starting to kind of dissolve, and the stuff that could not allowed in my mind to be mixed together, like Miscavige Good, you know, did this for me, and then I saw him beat some people. There's things that don't go together, they start to mix, and you go into a sort of a very, for me, a very extreme personal crisis that you have to sort of figure out. So, and I'm working on it. I'm not perfect, but with SB Nation has been like a huge help. Boy, nobody could have convinced me of that ever. Mitch, you use Venmo. I actually don't, but if you write me, if you want to, I use PayPal, but if you write me at Scientology: The Big Lie, I'll send you my actual email address. But if you're thinking of, okay, thank you. I love coffee. And like I said, if you're in the Studio City area, hit me up. I'll buy you a real coffee. And I mean that, or I might make you one, because I'm really a pretty good hobby barista. Is that, I guess, is that a thing? I think that's a thing. I have a really nice, espresso machine that was a gift from Gold. They love giving me stuff. I also have I forget the name of it. I have like a $2,500 juicer. I don't like talking about what things cost, but in this case, it's context. David Miscavige was concerned that I wasn't getting enough green juice, so he gave me one of these insane like juicers. Yeah, exactly. Juliana Betancourt says, yeah, it's kind of hard to reconcile an image you have of somebody with their polar opposite actions. Yeah, that's 100% true. You know, and when you see that mask drop and you see the raging psychopath underneath it, it's, you know, there's two different kinds of trauma. There's something that I've just discovered. This is just for me. You know, I'm not a student of mental health. I'm not really qualified to be talking about it, but I have my own experiences and I'm willing to share. And one of my observations is that there's two kinds of trauma. This may change over time. If it does, I'll try to update you. What is the trauma of what happens to us externally? You know, Wile E. Coyote, safe balls in his head. That's pretty traumatic. Things that happen as the result of the choices that other people make around us. And then there's this kind of internal trauma, which is a result of the choices that we make. And Juliana, that's what you're talking, that thing you're talking about is a function of our own internal choices, because we did have to, no matter how we were duped, we did disregard enough of our boundaries that we could ever perceive that person as good. So that you have to reconcile that as well. But anyway, philosophy cake, what can I say? By the way, somebody asked for a t-shirt, a piece of philosophy cake t-shirt. So I'm working on that. Yeah, he could have. Yeah, that would have been nice. But they actually at one. I mean, there was a period where they were paying me a lot of money. It doesn't matter because it's all gone now. But okay, Marilyn Honig wants to know, Mitch, is there an audio version of your book? There will be. The second I get the book out, I'm going to immediately set on to producing the audiobook. And I have a producer, a very talented producer, who's going to help me with it. Also happens to be my son, who's a brilliant musician and pretty expert around audio tools. So yeah, I'll get that out as soon as I can because, I mean, I would listen to that before I would read it. I mean, if it was somebody else's book, not mine. So what is this? It's funny. I don't read them. I just click on them and then read them. Do you ever think about teaching classes? If I was not on the opposite coast, I think I would enjoy learning production from you. I know how you direct and act via classes. Oh, I know how to direct and act via classes and 10 years experience. Yeah, I've thought a lot about teaching. I just don't know how to create an opportunity. Yeah, I've thought first and foremost about teaching film theory and film history because those are two things that I love and they're two things that people don't get enough exposure to. I was really lucky because I came out of fine arts, and when you're in fine arts, you really have your face shoved into art history and theory as part of your education if you had a decent fine arts education. So one of the first things in film that I was immersed in was film history and film theory. And it's such a new art form. I mean, we're going back to the early teens last century. So it's not like studying art where you're going to be going all the way back to primitive civilization. So it's a much easier art form to study. But to me, the most valuable subjects that you can study in life are the history of any kind of art history, whether it's painting, architecture, film, because so much of human experience is genuinely wrapped up. They say that history is written by the people who win or whatever that is. But, things like paintings and films and buildings and statues, and they were actually, you're looking at something that came from the actual time. You're not looking at somebody's description of Napoleon. You're looking at a painting of a battle painted in Napoleonic times. So I've always been fascinated by that. But the answer is yeah. Maybe I should start some online classes. And I would love to teach kids film production because, especially today, it's so easy with the tools that you can make a film on your phone. But you still need to have the basic sense of the underlying theory behind visual communication. And it's easy to teach it. It's just people don't always know where to look. Yeah, they were when they were small. Unfortunately, nobody in my family. Somebody asked us the other day. I forgot to answer it, or I failed to answer it. Nobody in my immediate family, my former wife or my children or my kids, my sons are in Scientology. They were. My former wife has family in Scientology, so in that way, you could say that there are some people in their family, not in mine, but the things are. We don't have any disconnection, weird kind of issues. We have other issues. So, okay. Duchess Diana, I'm looking forward to your book for the psychological aspects as well. Yeah, I mean, it's because it's so much a book of observation, and it's not like, I was never punched in the face or put in the hole, and I think I experienced a much more dynamic and a kind of weird or kind of nuanced kind of trauma in terms of losing one's identity and blah blah blah, and have it and just buying weird shit. So I try to unpack a lot of that in the book, and I also try to explain a lot of the experiences I had, like working on the Industry of Death Museum. I definitely laid out some of the BS that the church puts forth to impugn psychiatry, which is kind of ridiculous because, it's not that hard to do that. You don't have to lie. Okay. Marilyn says, oh, cool. I like audiobooks so I can crochet and do the other stuff while listening. I'm not a great reader. Lived in a cult for many years. I know a little about your story, Marilyn. I have followed you, and I know a lot about your crocheting because it's absolutely brilliant, and it just it gives it's further motivation that I know I could provide something for you to listen to when you crochet that brilliant stuff. So that's even more reason to get it done. But I'm also no longer a big reader, and I like to listen to books a lot, especially when nonfiction books that are read by the author, I think, are my favorite. Like Mike Render's book is it's just amazing because I've known Mike since 1990, and he's an amazing guy. Okay, so we got some really good questions here. Here's an interesting comment. Monet's son was incredible for understanding his father's lighting, a real fire runner in film, perhaps forgotten. I don't know anything about that. So are you saying, Duchess Diana, that Monet's son was a filmmaker? That's amazing because I have to tell you that one of the two main things that I would study, other than other films when making a film, I read somewhere that Steven Spielberg said he watches 3 films before he makes a film. He watches Yojimbo, he watches Lawrence of Arabia, and he watches Citizen Kane. And I don't know what I think this if he would still say that, but I could certainly understand that because those are 3 of my favorite films, especially Yojimbo and Lawrence of Arabia. But the other thing that I would look at is I would look at buildings and paintings. A lot of paintings. People like, God, what's his name? No, I can't remember. The father of the trash can school, Edward Hopper. Huge Edward Hopper fan. I spent a day in the Whitney Museum looking at the only like show of his work from when he was 8 till when he was an old man. And at the end of the show, I literally sat on a bench and I broke into tears because I had just journeyed through this man's entire existence and then came to the end where I realized he shared with me like his very most inner being just before he died. And I was like, it was like I lost a friend. So if you're not familiar with Edward Hopper, you've seen his work. Everybody has. Some of it's been copied and like turned into weird kitschy postcards. But so I would look at like Andrew Wyeth, Edward Hopper, classics, Vermeer, and Rembrandt, all those guys. So painting informs a lot of filmmakers in terms of lighting. If you really, really care about lighting, which I did because I came out of painting, so I'm like, I learned lighting from that aspect. Okay, let's move on here. I'm getting too academic. Okay, did that. Hey, I have a degree and a master's in English. Wow. Both with emphasis in comparative studies in literature and film. I really enjoyed studying film theory. Oh, we have to talk sometime. I mean, for me, that's like if there was a film theory con, like, a Star Trek convention, I would dress up like Sergei Eisenstein and go. Um, there's more references in there than anybody should know. Hey, that's great, Julietta Bencourt. We are definitely, I should tell you, this is funny. When I went to work at SMP, the staff there, Scientology Media Productions, they were kind of really hungry for real, they'd never been exposed to film theory and film history. And then when I showed up there, they were all like, it's like they wanted to talk to me. And because, I mean, not because I'm somebody special in that area, but I was the only one who had that kind of connection. And so they would all ask, we want you to give us a list of films we think you should watch. So I made this list. I think I cut it down to like, maybe there was 100 films on it. And I titled it Films You Have to Have Seen to Be My Friend. Very kind of funny, narcissistic statement. And then I handed it out to them. So, but anyway, that's great, Julia. Where did you? I'm sure. Hey, if you don't mind, put in the chat. I'm curious where you got your degree from. Not that it really matters. I'm just curious. That's interesting. Julianne also said at Maryland, I studied literature academically, and I don't read anymore. We're all in this together. Clap. Yeah, absolutely. I really do like audiobooks, so I'm looking forward to making one. I actually directed a lot of them. I did most famously, I guess, I directed all the versions of the Dianetics on the audiobook of the Dianetics book, 700-page book, whatever. And that was like, this monstrosity. I had it out. I was using it for research. But yeah, I did the audiobook of that, so I have some experience with that. I have to tell you, the guy, I can't think of his name, he's a voiceover actor who did the book. And then we were doing various Dianetic projects with him. And then one day he didn't show up. And he basically said he'd finally read the book. Or when we were reading through the book and we got to the part about how much about what Hubbard thought of homosexuals, he just said, "I'm not working for you anymore." So we had that. I experienced that twice with a voiceover talent who the other one who discovered after the fact some of the nasty stuff about Scientology. He just refused to show up, and when they kept calling him, he's like, "No, I'm not working for you." So there's a little bit of a hold on. This is at, who is this at? Sorry, I messed that up. I'll get back there. Gary, are you in the chat? Is Gary here? Oh my God. Hey, Gary. Thanks for joining in. My old friend. He used to look out for me when I went to Gold, more than I knew about, as he explained to me later. And Juliana says, I love nonfiction books read by the other two, and the Harry Potter series by Stephen Fry. Oh my God, the Harry Potter by Stephen Fry. When my kids were little, and my kids were the perfect age for Harry Potter when the books were coming out, and when we would take family vacations, we would play all those, and they absolutely blew my mind. That guy is such a genius. Okay. Any books you've read that you think would make a great film? Okay, this is an interesting question because one of my all-time favorite books that I read 20 years ago that I was convinced would make an absolutely brilliant film, and I fantasized about leaving Scientology and making this into a film, and I ran it through my mind and who I would cast in it and how I would shoot it and where I would shoot it. And then Noah Baumbach beat me to it, and he made it, and it's called White Noise. And I don't recommend the film at all. And not just because he beat me to it. I didn't really care about that. But when I watched it, it was unrecognizable because I don't even know what to say. I mean, I don't think there's ever a worse. The film did really badly, or it didn't do well, but it's such a great book. I highly recommend the book. Tom DeLillo, White Noise. I'm trying to think other than that. Not really. I sort of am of the school that says that, for the most part, as a generalization, bad books make good movies. Like the sort of potboiler, like they're not bad books, but like, all the hard-boiled mystery books that Raymond Chandler wrote, and blah blah blah. They're actually really good books and considered literature. But like the book Cape Fear, the film has been made twice. Once with Juliette Lewis and Robert De Niro, and then earlier with Robert Mitchum. That's just a bad book. It's just like this kind of a potboiler kind of, thriller, but it makes a great film. So I think some art forms shouldn't be transformed from one to the other, even though films and books and plays all share the idea of a narrative, an unfolding story. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to translate well into the other medium. I think that's something you have to be very careful about. The big exception to that is, what's his name? John Irving, who wrote the Cider House Blues and Cider House Rules. I'm sorry, that was my band, Cider House Blues. Just kidding. No, he wrote, The World According to Garp, or there was the country western version, The World According to Garth Brooks. No, that didn't happen. Anyway, so John Irving, his films have 3 films, I think, have been made into brilliant films, but he wrote the scripts. And I think that's the big difference because I remember he took Cider House Rules, which is an amazing film. And it was, and he talked about, I read an interview with him about how he left so much of it out. And he said, well, yeah, it's a movie. There's just a bunch of stuff in that book you'd never put in a movie, but I think because he's the one making the decision and writing the book is why it was so good film. If you've never seen Cider House Rules, highly recommended, along with The World According to Garp, and I can't think of what the other one was, or maybe I just made it up and there isn't one. But I'm gonna keep thinking about that because that's not a question you answer once. Now, who are we? No, I'm sorry. I'm looking for Duchess Diana. Said he kind of wrote the original book on lighting in the very early days, and had learned the perspective of lighting from watching his father. So you're talking about Monet's son. I get it. So he was a. So let me see. Monet was. He was that whole movement, the Impressionists, that started in the 1840s. Uh, it just came after that, the pre-Raphaelite movement and the classical painters in Paris, and then that sort of morphed into this avant-garde group of misfits that became the Impressionists. So I guess then he was his. So then he had a son at some point. So then he would have been around in the real early days, the formative days of film. Hey, I needed to be. Hey, Lenny Banahan, Mitch's voice is perfect for an audiobook. I got to tell you, I need to hear that like 100 times. So if you could just keep saying it, because I don't have a lot of confidence, but I am going to do it because I don't want to hear somebody else's voice saying these words. It would just really make me absolutely insane. So, Duchess, thank you for this. I'm going to look for this because it's like I'm a big believer in kind of the origins of things, because I think there's a lot of sometimes things get lost over time. Like if you told me you were going to study film and where should you start, I would probably say start by reading Sergei Eisenstein's 2 books, well, they're compilations of essays, Film Form and Film Sense, because I think I've read those at least every decade, if not more. I just kind of reread them because that is really where film as we know it starts. And they're amazing books. Even L. Ron Hubbard said the staff at Gold should read those books, but that's just like, there's no way you're not going to find that stuff. Okay. Oh, are you saying there's a movie about the Monet's kid? I'm going to look for that. Thanks. If you can think of the title, put it in there. But I'm definitely going to look more into that because I knew nothing about that, and I think that's so fascinating. You know, the same thing was with what's his name? Weren't they related? Renoir, the filmmaker, was the son of Renoir, the painter. At least I always thought that. I would be shocked if it wasn't, especially I'm embarrassing myself in public. But Renoir, the French filmmaker who did some beautiful things, which films which are completely escaping my mind at the moment. But yes, that was interesting. I thought that were the ones that were connected in that way. Okay, here we go. So, Juliana, film theory con. It's been over 10 years, though, Mitch. I'm not sure how much I have to offer, but willing to learn. Yeah, come on, Juliana, we're going to do film theory con. It's going to be great. Cons are like the happening thing. Why should we let all the geeks and the Star Trekkies like have all the fun? We could have some really, we could all wear like cable knit sweaters and drink 2 months espresso and, I don't know, just talk about, what's his name? Godard and Truffaut and all my favorite French filmmakers. I have to tell you, during COVID, I re-upped my subscription to Criterion Channel, And I held a French film festival in my living room for myself. And I went through and I watched all of those, the 400 Blows, Don't Shoot the Piano Player, Lost Weekend. I'm trying to think what else. Orpheus, and my favorite of all, which I can't think of it, I forgot, the Truffaut film with Jean Seberg, the wonderful actress that was bullied into suicide by the FBI. Yeah, there you go. One of the best things you can do with your life is to appreciate films. And Juliana says this at Juliana, the Scientologist, says you should have Mitch on your channel when you start making content. Yeah, let's talk about film theory. Come on, let's do that, man. What a blast! I've seen you. I saw you guys. You and Denver Stevo and Marilyn. I forget what that was. I guess it was Marilyn's deal. But I watched you guys and I thought it was great. Yeah, I still have the list of movies I like, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to dig it out, and I'm just going to scroll it on the screen at some time. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Okay, I got to put if you'd like to contribute to Mitch's book publication effort, you can do that here. Thank you. I promise you won't be disappointed. There's some strange films on there that would probably shock you, and there's probably some you've never heard of. There's a film, one of my favorite films. I think it won a Best Foreign Film Oscar in 1954. It's a Japanese film called Tokyo Story. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I highly recommend it. It's a contemporary film. It's not like a samurai film or a historical drama, which the Japanese are so famous for, but it's a historical film, a multi-generational family film by a director by the name of, I can't say his first name, his last name's Ozu. And he was a person that I really learned a lot from studying his films. He was very strict in his guidelines that he would set for himself. Like he would shoot an entire film with one lens. Like he'd pick a lens and he'd pick a height off the floor and he'd shoot the whole film from there, which is, supposedly a big no-no. But he's been a big influence on a lot of American filmmakers, believe it or not. Like what's his name? Paul, who wrote Taxi Driver. Really interesting. But anyway, Ozu's great. Oh, you know what, guys? You got to give me a second. I got to plug my battery in. I'll be right back. Whoops, I just got this message. Oh, great. And now my headphone, I just lost the, this is, I'm really embarrassing myself. Okay, hold on a second, guys. Just hold on, I have a treat for you. I'm gonna have to switch to my AirPods because now my headphones are malfunctioning, so just hold on one second. Mike, Steve Lopez. Mike, no, that's not right. Hold on. Okay, we should be good. Everybody hear me? If you can hear me, just kind of make a note and we'll take it from there. Anyway, I think we're good. Oh, and now I have to let the dog out. Hold on one second. I try to time these things. So, okay, I'm assuming you can hear me. I think a lot of us here are near in age. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I looked at my demographics on YouTube and there's not too many other people that are 106 like I am. But yeah, I think we're definitely older folks, which is great. Hello, Catherine. Nice to see you again. Thanks. Like we had so much fun the other night. We're going to do that again soon. don't need that there. So, oh, hey, you know, I just remembered this. I have a little bit of a treat for you. We've been talking a lot about my backdrop. So I promised I'd take some close-up stills of it and show them. And this is what it looks like. Believe it or not, when I shot these with my phone, a couple of maybe 4 or 6 inches away from the backdrop, and that's actually what it looks like. Because somebody was asking, I did that video about it, and then people wanted to know. So yeah, that's it, and it's incredibly detailed, and you can't see it in the photos, but some of the paint is they're metallic automotive paints. So there you go. I thought you would enjoy seeing that. Okay, so so at Maryland, yeah, from Juliana, yeah, that'd be cool. Besides not having a decent micro camera, I'm paralyzed at the pressure of putting out decent content. I got to go over that. Okay, listen, uh, uh, Juliana, here's the deal. I know a bunch of tricks for making your stuff look really good without spending any money. So just hit me up sometime and we can go over it. Okay. Yeah, I can tell that the other thing, the other dead giveaway that most of us watch on my channel are older, is that it's Friday night and we're on YouTube. So, you know, because we're not going to go clubbing. What do we like? Yeah, I have to check this out. Scientologists get mad when confronted about human trafficking. Yeah, not surprised at all. Well, they think, because I was one of them, that it's either a lie or you don't get it because whatever it is that's being done is necessary in order for the mission to succeed. And that mission includes saving your ass. So shut the F up. So did anybody figure out for me what I need to do to turn on monetization? Come on, yeah, yeah. Diana says I know Cape Fear. There was also the one with the 3 girls who take over a sailboat. What was that one? It was probably another crappy book that made like a great film. Yeah, yeah. I'll verify. Yeah, yeah. I love Leah's book because she narrates it in the audio. A great listen. Yeah, she did a great job. I mean, she's like had years and years of performance experience, so it was kind of a gimme. She was going to do a great job. But the way she shares her life and the way she intones the book, I thought was really amazing. Okay, good. Yeah, keep doing this, man, because I'm probably going to start in it soon, and I need the. I've actually already been practicing. Like I got, as I'm doing a final draft of the book, like I'll read it, and because sometimes you want to make changes because you dread having to say it that way in an audiobook. So sometimes you'll like tweak things uh, without hurting the read, but that improves the audio aspect. Well, that's a good tip. Duchess says you will be fine at doing the voiceover. You just need to practice your breathing exercises first. Yeah, that's great. That's a really good idea. I'm going to look that up, and then I need to knock off the phlegm producing foods. Like I won't be drinking a lot of milk, which I don't drink anyway. Juliana says, you can do it, Mitch. We want to hear it in your own voice. but do it in your own time. We'll wait. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Yeah, yeah. This is my pump me up before I go on team. Okay, good. So if you need me to, for 10 cents a minute, I can call you up and read you fairy tales. Okay, so I'm gonna get a 1-800 number. But thank you very much for that. Sergey, okay, so it's Sergey Eisenstein. Okay, if that's what you're asking me, the spelling of it. Uh, let me see here if I can help you out with that. So Eisenstein was a theater art director. He was a theater art director who he tells us a wonderful story about how he actually was doing a play in the round, and probably, this is pre-Bolshevik Revolution. You may have heard of his film Potemkin, about the outbreak of it's about a mutiny about on a Russian ship called the Potemkin, and which was kind of sparked the Bolshevik Revolution. So he was somebody that I discovered in film school, because all of us were made. There he is. Yeah. Anyway, there he is, and you can get his book. He's sort of a crazy, wild Russian-looking dude. This book is one of the best books about art and transformation that you'll ever read, because he literally, if you don't know it, if you do know it, I'm sorry to bore you, but if you don't know it, the whole idea of editing with jump cuts, dropping out time, cutting closer, nobody had done those before Eisenstein. Before Eisenstein, everything was like a 10-minute film. It was what they called a one reeler. They'd set up a camera and they would treat the action as though they were shooting it on a stage, like with what they call a proscenium arch. And there was no three-dimensionality, no cutting in, no jump cuts, no dissolves, no nothing. So Eisenstein is the one who first worked out the theory of all that. And he was the first one that began developing what is known as the grammar of film. And even though in this country, we give a lot of credit to D.W. Griffith as the father of modern film. I mean, he's just like, to me, he was like, Thomas Edison. He stole the light bulb from somebody else. It's that whole kind of deal. So I highly recommend it. I don't think it's on audio. It was translated from the Russian by some very academic people. So it's a bit of a dense read, because, that's what academics like to do. But anyway, that's the deal. So did you get the spelling? It's right there. Sergei Eisenstein. Okay, good. I think we got that. Okay, good. So I guess we are in film school. No, we're going to do. I didn't realize. Okay, good. So I think the vote is in. People want to hear my voice. Okay, I'll do it. Fair enough. Yep, that would be him. I don't really have an accent. I mean, I grew up in Laurel Canyon in the West Hollywood Hills, so I guess that's what the accent is. Okay, good. So I have a new career. Jeffrey Augustine and Poe and the Go expose a real threat to Leah Remini, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Boy, I'm going to watch that. Folks, let's tune in. Yeah, okay, maybe it was Renoir. Maybe, yeah, okay. But that's fine if you did. I get things like that wrong all the time. But I do know Renoir the painter, his son was a filmmaker, and just some amazing films. I'm trying to think what was Renoir's. filmmaker, Jean Renoir, Grand Illusion, The Human Beast, A Day in the Country, Rules of the Game. Yeah, all great films. Yeah. So yeah, okay, good. So yeah, that might have been Renoir, but that's okay. Marilyn says, I love listening to an author reading their own book. It makes it more personal. Mark Hadley's book really came to life in audio. Didn't even sound like he was reading. Mike's was great too. Yeah, Mark did a great job with his book, but he always kind of liked to talk. So, but yeah, he really read it with this. Mark's book has an amazing authenticity because he read it like very like in like it was happening right now. Okay, here we go. Yes, Linda P. Golan at Duchess Diana Einstein, seminal filmmaking, early Russian cinema, Potemkin, Ivan the Terrible, and he also did. He went to Mexico and made a film with his communist buddies. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a really cool film. Okay, so we have now we know what audiobooks are actually produced for knitters and crocheters, which is awesome. Okay, good. So we all stand corrected. It was Renoir, not the other guy. I can't remember his name again. He was a hack. What was his name? Monet, whatever. He was into painting flowers. Hey, look who's here. Okay, good. I think I'm going to be a little more thoughtful about what I'm putting on here. Okay. Okay, this is at me. Oh, at Mitch, Marilyn, Steve-O, Clearwater Chad, and I have 2 weekly shows, Monday after party and Saturday afternoon at 1 Eastern with Mark Turi, ex-Scientologist. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I know I caught the one show last weekend, which I loved. I jumped into the chat. I loved seeing you guys. I mean, the Never Ends are just like the best people. I mean, yeah, well, at least I have batteries on my that was just this little MagSafe, but the thing fell out and I didn't notice that. But I don't run, just so you know, I run nothing on batteries. My camera AC adapter, my lights AC adapter, my computer AC adapter. That was just some random shit. Like maybe my dog pulled it down. But yeah, you're right, Aaron, and our batteries. Uh, okay. Goldie says, who had content creators battery dies 38 minutes in on SPTV bingo card? So you're printing those bingo cards, right? I mean, you're going to do that, right, Goldie? You promised, right, Goldie? We want to play SPTV bingo. I don't want to miss anything because like I said at the outset, I'm OCD about making sure good questions get answered. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Juliana seconds the motion. We want to play. We want our SPTV bingo. Okay. Yes, I want to play. We want to eat philosophy cake, and we want to play SPTV bingo. I'm sure if we thought about it, we could do something that's even better than Cards Against Humanity. Yeah, true. I agree with you on that. I thought that was pretty amazing. I knew her when she was a little girl. Oh, we need Mitch on the Scientology Jeopardy too. Yeah, I will do that, and I will also do Scientology Trivial Pursuits, and I'll also do film Trivial Pursuits if anybody's so inclined. Because Okay, hold on. I got something here I want to share. This was one that I didn't catch from Apostate Alex. This was on Karen Olson's one, the Catherine Olson, on the deal we were doing. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on, settle down, folks. No, this was from Jacqueline Leach. Okay, not. I thought it was from Apostate Alex, but it's not. This is the not related to Donovan Jacqueline Leach question. Do you know about Tom Cruise and how he gets his auditing? He doesn't just get serviced at high level orgs. He has an auditor travel with him, right? Well, I can conjecture that there's absolutely no reason that the church wouldn't provide Tom with any service that he requires, including whatever auditors he requires wherever he is. So although I don't have specific firsthand knowledge of that, it is an absolute fact that they do that. They, I mean, think back to when he was married to Katie Holmes and he had, what's her name, Feshbach, Tommy Davis's then wife, traveling with them, and she went wherever they went, and she was Katie's auditor. So, and I knew her. I worked with her, and her favorite, what do you call it, catchphrase was "blow me," and there's nothing more than I enjoy hearing a woman say that. It's just so, she was really an uncouth person, but you know, Scientology does that to you. Okay. Well, okay. So you're saying Aaron gets sidetracked, but no more than any of us. I mean, I get sidetracked all the time. I think he stays amazingly focused. I'm quite in awe sometimes of how he manages to just spew a track out. So, oh, hold on. Here's something. Okay, so this is Lenny Bonahan. I hope I've said that right. Handpicked waving question. Strangest book or film you have read or seen? Wow, that is not something I could answer easily. I think the strangest book I'd ever read was Aleister Crowley's Diary of a Drug Fiend, which I later found out that Hubbard was a fan of his and claimed to have known him, which apparently he didn't. But somehow I found this book many years before I was in Scientology. And it's bizarre because he was insane. He was a complete lunatic, and he wrote it when he was severely addicted to opium. And it's a very strange book. I can't say that I recommend it. So, Davy Trolls are loose in area in studio. Bingo. Okay, so I guess that was a bingo question, a bingo answer, right? Tina and the Last 20. What is that? Is that like a musical group? Doesn't sound like you'd all fit on the stage at the same time, but I like the name. Is Forrest Whitaker still in Scientology? Forrest Whitaker was never in Scientology. That somebody would have to provide some verifiable truth for that. I just think that's complete nothing. Come on, Richie, where'd you come up with that? So Linda P. Golan at Julietta Betancourt, the Scientologist thinks maybe Liz Gale would be the one to do it. She likes quizzes. Yeah, maybe we could. Yeah, I'll write her an email. Maybe we could get her to come up with Scientology with SP Bingo. That would be awesome. Yeah, Juliana at Linda. Maybe Jeopardy is a harder format, though. Yeah, it definitely is. But I'm trying to think how we would do that. Maybe we could do like a show where three of us go on, and then a fourth person is like the MC and throws questions at us, and we'll start a game show. We'd probably really do well on YouTube starting a game show. I mean, why not? It's the platform has infinite possibilities for programming. Okay, so I wonder if I have anything else that I wanted to go over with you. Oh, a little bit of news. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, I have Sterling Tompkins coming on. Sterling, uh, he and I worked together at Golden Hour Productions. He was, I think you guys, he did two streams with, he did two episodes with Aaron, and he was on, Mark and Janice's, Mark Fisher, Janice Grady's channel the other day. And I knew him ever since he was a kid. He was in a bunch of my films. And so he and I are going to talk about like the day in the life of a Sea Org member and what it's like to be on the set and this kind of little bubble we had it was like a different world. But Sterling's a great guy. For a brief period of time, he was the head of what's called, he was the CO, commanding officer of the Commodore's Messenger Organization, Gold, which is a special branch of the CMO that was set up to oversee Gold, which it was set up by L. Ron Hubbard, but it no longer exists because Miscavige was like, get out of here. Get out of here with your whatever you are. I'm taking over. But yeah, Sterling was, he was actually the head of that, but he was like, I don't know, 19 or something. So I'm really looking forward to that. He's working tomorrow, so we got to do it in the morning. Yeah, that's me. I've been getting a lot of friend requests. Go ahead. I love friends. And Lenee Monahan says, face, red heart shape. Great show, Mitch. Thank you. No, thank you, because I'm only here because of you guys. And that's a fact. And let me see, other than that, I'm arranging to bring a brand new person into the SP Nation. Who is going to blow your mind, a long time past member of blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to give it away. Had a very extremely important position, somebody who was a really good friend of mine for a very long time. We both left around the same time. She has yet to speak out. She wanted to speak out with me first because of our relationship and so forth. This is going to be like the most amazing show because this person was in at least as unique a position that I was in, and none of these stories have ever been told. So look forward to that. I'm hoping to get that happening within the next, I don't know, week. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to do the second installment of Saturday Night Confessional. Last week, I did the Ask Me Anything edition. I'm not sure what tomorrow night's going to be. I've had a couple of people reach out to me and want to join me on the stream. So it might just be an interesting random, it might be a drinking game. I don't know. It might be bingo. Who knows? But you're all invited to so that would be, I think I'm going to do it at 10 a.m. Sorry about that, Goldie. That is 10 a.m. Pacific PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. So just check your Apple, your iPhone for the world map, which is what I do, because you don't have to think anymore because you all have a phone with all those tools. Okay, so the question is, that's a great question. Who serves philosophy in the form of cake? I do. No, we just call it philosophy cake. I should probably make some real ones. There's somebody got the name. Unfortunately, there's a channel, a baker, a young girl who's decided to bake and like has this channel of philosophy cake. But there's like 3 videos on it. Like it's just got wasted. Like it never got used. I might ask her if I can have the name, but I want to do some philosophy cake merch because it's just a funny thing. Yeah, you're going to really, believe me, I didn't oversell this. This is going to blow your mind. This person is so fascinating and has such amazing stories. Okay, good. I hope you're not talking about tip 45. You have a bottle of wine. Okay, okay. Yay, drinking game. Okay, good. Tomorrow I'll have to work that out. I don't really drink much, but because when I was a kid in high school, I was a really hardcore drug user, and I ended up getting hepatitis, which I don't have anymore because I took a miracle drug and I got cured. So I can absolutely drink all I want, but I just never developed much of a taste for it. I do like beer and I do like wine. I don't like the liquor. What we call the booze. Like you ask a wine drinker, what are you drinking? They'll say, oh, I'm drinking a Chardonnay. And if you ask like a cocktail drinker, you'll say, what are you drinking? They'll say booze. So it's a whole different thing. Anyway, we'll get you off of there. Okay. Okay, good. So now we're doing Marilyn wins the so far she gets the clever joke award. Questions about the host. Well, I'm certainly, do you have one? Oh shoot, I'm excited. Okay, good. And Patty B says, don't drink. Don't drink. No, she asked, don't drink. No, I do drink. Just not much. Tiff 45 says, I don't drink either, but I'm gonna. Okay, good. Well, okay, good. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna soak up the mocktails now. One of my favorite go-to drinks. This is cranberry juice and Pellegrino. I should give it a name. Do you guys want to name my mocktail? Please feel free. Hey, Juliana says, I'm here, guys. Going to be listening, but leaving chat. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us, Mitch. Juliana, you're the best. And I am expecting some interactivity on the film theory front. So don't forget that we talked about that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I really like it with Pellegrino. It's really good. I do about 50-50. It's kind of like a diet soda, if you're trying to watch calories, that's a good one. Okay, so what else do we got? I'm trying to think. Oh, then I've had a couple of people reach out to me, believe it or not, and I'm sure the other SB Nation creators have had a similar thing. I'm relatively new at this, so I'm kind of late, a little bit late to the party. But a number of us, I know, because I know I have had other people reach out to them who have had some kind of traumatic, abusive relationship with an organization or individuals, family member, whatever, for which they have turned to this community because it helps them because they're so welcome here, and it gives a kind of a structure. It gives a narrative. I have one person I've become friends with, and when she first contacted me, when we first started talking on Facebook, she said, when she watches the Scientology stuff, she thinks it's the same story. It's just a different day. And she really let me know how much of that actually exists, how many people there are out there who had never had anything to do with Scientology. And they're really watchers. They're really sort of on the periphery, but they're watching because they find it healing. And she asked me if I could platform some people, on which I don't remember who asked who. Maybe I asked her. So I'm going to be bringing somebody on from her past cultic experience. And then I have another friend, because this is really something I like to do with this platform, which is why I appreciate your support so much, because I really want to continue doing this work. I have another friend who's a very gifted film artist. He's a character animation designer. He's a special effects person. He's worked on some major films. I knew him we went to the same college together. I didn't know him in college. I was a little older than him, but we were alumni of the same art school, film school, actually. And and he did like some major projects for me at Scientology. I brought him in, and he contacted me recently to let me know that all these years that I knew him, and I never knew this, that he was involved in this very destructive small cult in Hollywood. And he's going to come on and speak out for the first time. He's probably the first person, I think, in this cult that will have spoken out so publicly. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I think that'll really mix things up a bit, because I kind of like to move a bit beyond Scientology, not because that's always going to be the core of what we do. I mean, the whole movement, which was started a long time ago and which was really accelerated by Leah Remini and the work she and Mike did together, and then by Aaron Smith-Levin and others. Uh, it's important to the entire biosphere of of helping people to heal from a certain kind of trauma, which has unfortunately become a broad part of human existence. But hey, I'm getting too serious. That's why we need to do a drinking game. This is like, okay, so let's, okay. I have a new nickname from Lenny Bonan. Briscarini. That's my Italian. My Italian rap name is Briscarini. Uh, Tina in the last 20 says booze ratings. One kills slowly, the heart stuff kills with vengeance, acting swiftly in duration. Usage levels determines onset. I know that's a lot there. So these are basically the booze ratings, but it's not all booze. Use levels determines. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything bad in moderation. I think things only get crazy when you start to obsess on them. But thanks for that. And Vicki Andrews says, watching and chatting with these wonderful people gives us all a connection, which is what most people want. Each channel gives us something different, which is great. Yeah, it's amazing. And like, that's what a community is. It's like, I got to tell you, like joining, like I was heavily motivated to want to contribute, to not just want to watch. It's just my nature. But it's given me a sense of belonging, like that I've not had ever. So it truly is amazing. Duchess Diana says, outing Scientology is a fascinating sociological and psychological study where it concerns healing. Yes, and if you ever want to come on my channel and talk about that, you're invited to. Like any of you, if you ever want to just be more visible in the conversation, I'm happy to have you on. Thank you, Ramon. Thank you so much. I haven't gotten that much love in a while. Wait, your other person is a former actress? Oh, who is that at? I missed something here. Okay, so maybe you could clarify Vegan 3. What does this say? The biggest SP. Were you there on the set of Gold Base when Verily Haney escaped in 2016? I don't know if I was there or not. I think I was in LA. I went to LA at David Miscavige's behest in 2014. I went and I worked out of Author Services, which is great because it's only 7 minutes from where I live, which beats the fuck out of driving, an hour and a half to Gold. And we were working on the Narconon program. So, and then we moved over to SMP, and then I got busted there. I got in a shitload of Scientology trouble, and which is really easy to do. And so I went back up to Gold to do some kind of program, and then eventually I just left. So when Valerie left, I'm pretty sure I was at Scientology Media Productions, but I certainly knew about it. I certainly heard about it, and I was certainly like, I really liked Valerie. She was my talent. Like I guess this kind of second in charge. There's this other person who's the talent, what they call IC, which stands for in charge or talent chief. And she, like her IQ never got above room temperature. How she ever kept that job, I have no idea. And then Valerie worked under her, and Valerie was like 4 or 5 times smarter and more energetic than this person. So I really liked Valerie. I always had a lot of fun with her. And then I heard she jumped in the trunk of a car and left, and I was like, yes, because I liked it when spunky people left and got out of there. I never was able to untangle my own the way in which I was trapped there because I didn't have to jump in a trunk of a car. I drove out of there. I drove up there and back once a week. I mean, I could have just at any time just said, "No, fuck off. I'm not going to come up anymore." Which eventually I did that. But yeah, a lot of it was, and I think Sterling will talk about this tomorrow. And I also think Jackson, he and I need to go on sometime and talk about the fact that how much the crew, and I don't say this with any ego at all, but because of the work that I did there in filmmaking, because it was so instrumental to the forward progress of Scientology. And because we, generally speaking, did pretty good at it, working in that area offered a lot of protection. And so I always had this, God, this really sounds like I'm trying to toot my horn, but you know how like you hear about soldiers talk about what they were fighting for, and they say that they were fighting for the guy next to him in the trenches and had nothing to do with the ideology of the war. Well, that's how I felt a lot with a lot of the staff at Gold, that I knew that if I left, that whole operation, the filmmaking operation, would collapse, and a lot of people who I liked, their lives would be miserable. So, but I will never make that mistake again, because in the long run, you're not helping them by staying. Because it's better to just let those things collapse. So I wasn't, I don't think I was at the gold base. I might have, I might have been, because I heard about it pretty soon after it happened. Uh, Back at you, Susie Q. Yeah, Marilyn says this community has been really healing and relatable. Very similar experiences without the triggering language. I grew up in so much support. 100%. Uh, yeah, so hey, Goldie, are you still there? If you're still there, can you do me a favor? I think she might have bailed because I don't know how late she can stay. Um, Here, I want to just look up a link real quick and put it in here. So if I seem slightly, I mentioned this song the other night, Iris Dement. Some of you may have heard it because the song was used. It was used on a season of The Leftovers on HBO, and it became my anthem upon leaving Scientology. Here's the link. Where to go? Anyway, here's the link. You can just search in the YouTube search bar, Iris Dement, Dement. Let the mystery be, and I just listened to it, uh, and it really became like it got me through the ideologically. It got me through leaving Scientology. Okay, here we go. Tina in the last 20. I'm getting the idea that Tina's talking about the last 20 drinks we had. Just kidding. The onset modality. Okay, so the onset modality is determinant on frequency of usage. Not all drinkers do from their alcohol intake. Sounds like you're at the top of your life. Have a drink. Have a drink too. The best is yet to come. Well, I'm going to drink to that for sure. I'm kind of jumping around here, so it's a little. This is great. This is such a good comment. I prefer napping through trauma. If it were that easy. Thinking is something that letting of is more productive for me. Okay, well yeah. Not sure what this means, vegan food. Would love to see somebody go through the old newsletters. I jabbered about them in the forum. I guess I wasn't in the forum. I didn't get that, but well, I guess those were old Scientology newsletters, perhaps. Yeah, Marilyn says music is very healing. This is true. I got in such a dark place that I couldn't actually listen to music. It was just the fact that I needed so much healing that the music, just listening to music became triggering, and it was like I had to forgo it. Like the only thing I could. So your mic is making the sound cut in and out and wobbly. Is that right? If how is it? Is it okay now? It should be good. Let me just check my settings here. Yeah, it should be good. It looks good on my end. I hope that's not. I'm cutting in and out. That is very troubling. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me just check something here. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. I don't see anything wrong. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I have a bad cable or something. Everything's like brand new. Oh boy. Da-da-da-da. Well, I don't exactly have a backup mic. Okay, so it's better now. Okay, good. Okay, good. I did something. Hopefully that'll work. Yeah, okay, maybe it would. Yeah, okay, that might have been it. Opening up that link. Sorry about that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I had a link open there, and damn. Well, I'm kind of disappointed. I probably could have got a six pack of a really decent stout off of super chats, and now I'm just gonna have to go beerless for the rest of the night because I didn't figure out how to turn them on. But I'll get that sorted out by tomorrow, unless maybe those YouTube people are messing with me and they just decided to send me, an email just to tease me about being monetized. Uh, but I don't think that's the case. Here, let me just here I'll show you just so you guys. Hang on, guys. I have another little treat for you. It's not a treat. Uh, okay. Let me just do this just to prove to you that. Okay, here you go. I hope there's no. Yeah, okay. See, this is what I'm talking about. You see that? Huh? So I don't know why. I thought it just automatically, I thought the super chats just automatically came on, but I guess not. Oh, okay. So, Lani, I hope I pronounced that right. Hand pink waving. Just okay. Just listen to "Let the Mystery Be." Awesome. Isn't she amazing? Isn't Iris Tomei amazing? I discovered her because they played her on the title of the second season of The Leftovers or whatever, which is a great show on FBI and HBO from a few years ago. Uh, and then I read an interview with her, and she had uh, oh, anyway. Oh, back at you, Jackson. When are you going to come on my channel? We can talk about all the BS we went through and all the stuff that I didn't know. Uh, but anyway, so back to this. Okay, so Iris DeMent grew up in the South. She was a member of a charismatic Christian church, which I would consider a cult. She left it as an adult, a young adult, and as she turned her back on her religion, she left having written that song about her faith. And then I heard the song and I was like, "That's my anthem." Like if you believe that song, you can't be in a cult. You can't. It's amazing. So I highly recommend everybody who listen to it. Uh, so Jackson, so thank you very much, Dastardly Saboteur. I work on that. I try not to do too much of um, too many of the dad jokes. Hey, Tina, in the last 20, you don't have to apologize for being on the spectrum. We're all on the spectrum. Anyway, just a hug and a kiss to you. Uh, okay, here's a question, Mitch. This is from Maryland again. Just Mitch, just wondering, when did you apply? How long did it take you to get your letter from YouTube? Okay, so about 28 days ago, it was actually in July. I posted that promo for my book because I thought I was going to be done with it and it would be out by now, and I thought I should start putting it up. That was the first thing on the channel. I started the channel to support the book, and I'd been speaking with Aaron and a few other people. Obviously, I'd been speaking with Mike for like a year. I'd been speaking with Mark and Claire. We were kind of connecting with people that I knew and that I really liked, and that I was always like when they did shit. Like I remember when Mark and Claire were suing the church, I was like, oh man, don't do that. It's just going to make your life miserable. You're not going to win. Not because I didn't want them to sue the church, but I really liked them and cared about them. And I'd get these, Mark had sent me some messages, and he wanted to try to help me get out, and I couldn't really respond to him. It's like I just couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? But it was like, I'm just going to put that in a box because Mark was my friend and I adored Claire, and I'd had some problems with my wife, and RTC had taken over the situation. It really brutal. Like it had been really traumatizing for my former wife. She was sex checked by Marty Rathman, all kind of crazy stuff. So I had all these experiences with these guys, but I was like, like when Mike left, and I didn't even know about the hole or that he was in the hole. Like when I did the Industry of Death Museum, I didn't know that Miscavige had taken Mike out of the hole. I didn't know this until Mike told me, and he had him as the main speaker for the opening of the Industry of Death Museum, which is a major deal. Took him out of the hole, put him there. He's the main speaker. Took him back, put him in the hole. But then when he sent him to England to deal with John Sweeney, and then I knew that's where he escaped from, which we all read about in the book. And when I heard about it, I'm like, yeah, no shit, because I knew how he has been treated. So I knew that he had no choice. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, damn Mike Rinder, he left and now he's speaking out against us. I was just like, that was the guy's journey. I mean, I was like, the more I would compartmentalize all that stuff about my friends who left and making it okay for me still to be there, it's like the more it just like pounds your own trauma. It's that internal trauma that I spoke about that is a function of your own decisions that you make, as opposed to what other people do to you. So anyway, there's another piece of philosophy cake, but I didn't answer your question. So 28 days ago, so I put the thing up, and then 4 days ago, I got a letter. I thought I was only at 3.8K, 1,000 watch hours, and I didn't think I'd hit 4K yet. And I had over 1,000 subscribers because I'd done that relatively quickly. And Aaron helped with that just by having me on a couple of times. I didn't do that much with him. So about 4 days ago, I got a letter saying, hey, you're eligible, apply. So I applied, and they said, hey, great, it can take up to a month. And then yesterday I got a letter saying, hey, congratulations, you're now part of the partner program and you're eligible for all this stuff like super chats, blah, blah. Maybe I needed to sign in and give other information for the super chats, but I just was so excited to get with you guys and tell you I forgot to do it. I didn't even think about it. So yeah, I basically did it in a month. I mean, I've heard people do. I watched a video of some guy who was like, yeah, you can do it in 2 weeks. And then Aaron told me that Relatable Reese did it in 2 days. I don't know how that's possible, but he says she actually became monetized in 2 days, that is insane. So I need to talk more about my cooter and my chubby husband, I guess, because apparently that's the key to how you get big. But I really like her, and I sent her a note. I wanted to go on with her. I thought we would be interesting because we're so different. And I really like her. I like her, just that the kind of person she is like very, very different than how I grew up. But now that I said that, she'll probably never go on with me. But Reese, if you're listening, we should do something together. Okay, so here we go. Teen in the last 20, Mitch, I've learned more history through the arts. Art imitates life. Tina, I am so with you on that. It's like, if you want to learn history, you study art history, because that painting or whatever it is, it has been around since its inception, where the books and so forth may have been altered over time and rewritten by academics and professors and so much. And like, there is no better way. Like, for example, there's a wonderful book written by a British scholar. It's called um, The Judgment of Paris, which is the name of a very famous painting. And The Judgment of Paris is about we believe it or not, it's about Renoir and Monet. It's about the Impressionists. It's about the period 1840s in Paris and the salons. Amazing book. I listened to the audiobook, and it's like listening to a thriller, what was going on in the art world. And there, you learn so much history about that period from learning about what was happening with art. It is absolutely the most informed way of learning history. Even politics, culture, everything wraps into what was going on with art. I think somebody asked us the other day, do the people that go based know David Miscavige ain't coming back? No more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Dave ain't coming back no more. I don't even know Dave knows he's never coming back. I mean, he told me he's never coming back. You can quote me on this. Because he literally did, in a one-on-one conversation, say to me, I'm never coming back here because there's too many people here that fucked me over. I'm not monetized tonight, so I'm not worried about that. So yeah, do they know he's not coming back? I don't know. I think secretly they hope he never comes back, because he's tough to be around. I mean, he used to do these things, and Mark and I will talk about that, where all of a sudden COB is coming up. He's coming up tomorrow, and then everybody would be, and they'd have to get everything straightened up and everything ready and all the submissions ready and all these things would have to happen. 3 days later, he'd show up. Or he would just show up and give 15 minutes notice. And he was always doing this to keep everybody unnerved. And it got to the point where I was just like, oh, they'd say, hey, COB's coming up. And I go, oh, okay. Because it was just like, you never knew what was going to happen. So why even take it so seriously? But I mean, he's got so much shit. He's got cars there. He's got tons of stuff there, all kinds of stuff. But I seriously doubt he's ever going to go back there. I mean, why should he? It's just like, it's a nice piece of property with a bunch of cool stuff, but it's like a shithole, man. It's like, the best restaurant around Gold is like a Denny's. It's like, he's a rich guy, man. He's like hanging out with Tom Cruise and eating at 5-star restaurants. So I remember when I went to the IS event in 2015, I think, with them. I had to come back to LA because I had some stuff pending, but they said, hey, why don't you fly on to Denmark with us? We're going to go to, oh man, what's the name of it? It's not there anymore. Well, it sort of is. It's just a project. What is the name of it? If you watch that the great TV series, The Bear, they talk about this restaurant. It's in Denmark. It's the best restaurant in the world. And he was like, you got to come to Denmark with us. We're going to go to blah. What is it? I just can't think of the name of it. It's world famous. So these are the places he wants to eat. He doesn't want to go to Gold. It's like, hey, let's go out to dinner. Or there's like, I mean, your choices are, there's a Denny's up the road, or you could drive into to San Jacinto or whatever, what other place, Moronic Valley, or whatever those little towns are near there. And there might be like a Mexican restaurant that is just like, it's not like, I wouldn't recommend it. So I don't know why you would go back to, I mean, there's a Starbucks. That's about it. Yeah, Reese is great. Susie Q says she is great. I think she's a real gift to this community. I think she's truly, she's so raw and open and sincere, which is what I love about her. And she can also be incredibly funny. Reese is so funny. We talked about our ovaries for 5 minutes in this gym together. Yeah, I love that she does that. She's just got like, she's just has no buttons, as we say, at any of that stuff. Okay, so what was the name of the Paris art history book? I missed it. It's called The Judgment of Paris. And it's written by a very famous art historian. And the audiobook, which is what I listened to, is absolutely spectacular. It's so good that if you listen to it, you don't like it, I'll pay you back for it. And that's saying a lot because I'm kind of broke. Anyway, there's a whole Wikipedia page devoted to uh, basically the Judgment of Paris is a story from Greek mythology, which was one of the events that led up to the Trojan War, and then later versions of the story of the foundation of Rome. And then beyond that, there's a very famous, I think there's some pre-Raphaelite paintings. Raphael is both my favorite Ninja Turtle and my favorite Renaissance artist. So I'm really lucky that I got to combine those two things now. Uh, so this is, uh, yeah, this is the book. It's on Amazon. I just want to show you here. Really recommend this. This is one of my favorite uh, books of all time, and it is. This is kind of crazy. How does this work? Google Chrome. I think I probably just screwed everything up. Um, yeah, so I completely biffed that. So anyway, yeah, you can go on to Amazon. It's The Judgment of Paris, the revolutionary decade that gave the world Impressionism, written by Ross King. And I'm not sure if he did the audiobook, but whoever did the audiobook, he's an absolute genius. So go and check that out. I'm not an Amazon affiliate, so I'm not getting anything for that recommendation. It's just from me to you with love. Uh, what do we got here? Some other important things. Goldie, a place where ex-Scientologists and interested general public can get together to discuss various experiences in Scientology. Is that ex-Scientology? Okay, good. That's good to know. Okay, here's a quiz. Here's Duchess Diana says, quiz note. This is a quiz question note. Who is Mitch Brisker's favorite Ninja Turtle? Mark that down as Raphael. Yeah, I think he's my favorite turtle because Raphael is my favorite. I think it's spelled with a PH, by the way. But did the turtle spell it differently? I think he's my favorite turtle because I'm a big fan of Raphael, who was the younger, much younger generation down from Michelangelo, and they had all kinds of conflicts with one another because, in my opinion, Raphael was the better painter, and there was a lot of tension and conflict between Michelangelo and Raphael, which isn't quite reflected in the Ninja Turtle story, but um, there you go. So, but yes, mark that down. My favorite Renaissance painter and my favorite Ninja Turtle is Raphael. And one of the interesting things about the book, The Judgment of Paris, is there was something that I was always confused about because I was always a big fan of pre-Raphaelite painting. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. You've seen it, I'm sure. There was a thing in the 1840s um, right before Impressionism got a start that was called the Pre-Raphaelite movement, and we've all seen it. It's beautiful stuff. And they call themselves a Pre-Raphaelite movement because they wanted to go back to the time pre-Raphael. They felt that there hadn't been any honest artwork done since the time of Raphael. And in the 300 years between Raphael and the 1840s in Paris, all the art was basically bankrupt and corrupted. It was just enforced classical art, which was the status quo. It's the only thing that the status quo would allow the people to digest. And so then this movement sprang up, which at the time was considered to be avant-garde. And that avant-garde movement, they called themselves the pre-Raphaelites. And there was actually I think there was something like 27 of them. There was this group of them that called themselves the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. There's some Pre-Raphaelite paintings. They're just absolutely stunning, and they're from the around the 1840s, and they're you can see these, right? Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of these. They're very romantic. They're from the 1840s, and they're one of the two kind of very important painting movements that led into that just predated the Impressionists. And the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was a very important avant-garde movement, of which I think out of the 27 or 30 or so of them, 3 of them were women, which was really cool because women didn't have a big role in the world of fine art back in those days. So I'm always kind of a fan, not so much aesthetically, but ideologically, with the Pre-Raphaelite movement. And plus, I love the idea that paintings like that would have been considered avant-garde in their time. Like those were like the beatniks, right? That's the crazy cool stuff they were doing. Um, right? I mean, look at that. You look at that and you don't think of that as avant-garde, but in terms of the relationship of this type of art to the Renaissance, which had been basically continuing on for 300 years and just turning into this. I mean, at the point where the Impressionists rose up, art had just. You read about it in the Judgment of Paris. The whole story is in there. It is absolutely mind blowing. Maybe someday I'll make a film centered on that. There's another subject that I really want to make a film about, which is Michelangelo's early days as an art forger, because a lot of people don't know it. But the young Michelangelo was a successful art forger. He used to forge. Uh, he used to forge antiquities, like back then in the Renaissance. Antiquities were Greek and Rome. Maybe they still call those antiquities. I'm not sure, but that's what they called antiquities back then. And he used to sculpt Grecian and Roman sculptures and then break them up and then bury them somewhere. And then he and art, his art, what do you call it? Not an agent, but his art seller buddy would find them and they'd sell them for a lot of money as fake antiquities. There's a very famous story. There was a bishop in Rome who was the most foremost uh, authority on Roman antiquities in the entire country of Italy. He was highly revered, and he bought one of Michelangelo's fake statues. And later on, when Michelangelo became famous, this bishop discovered that he'd bought a forgery. He couldn't say anything because it would discredit him, right? Because he bought a forgery. So instead, he reworked the story and said, "Oh, by the way, I bought a Michelangelo." This was so he managed to escape the whole thing unscathed by having been completely tricked to buy one of Michelangelo's fake antiquities. I think that's such a wonderful story. And it's also just a great story about an emerging artist who has to, like, in order to eat, he has to make fake art. And we all think of Michelangelo as just like such a god, but he started out as an art forger. I did too, kind of. Uh, Cullaby very kindly says, "I took art history at school. Love the extra lessons with Mitch." Yeah, I'm famous for making shit up, so you might want to fact check me on Google. No, with you guys, I don't make anything up. Okay, so yep, there they are: Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael. That's them, the 4 Renaissance painters who became the Ninja Turtles. I was never a big Ninja Turtle fan, although I always super appreciated that the creators of the Ninja Turtles were kind of cool enough to name them after these 4 Renaissance artists, because I was just like, it's just absurd. It's like this. It's like right out of the theater of the absurd is that they have these names. So okay, good. Can we? We're gonna hang in there. Just hang in there with me a little bit longer, because I'm going to try to hit my quota. I have my hours, but I need to get them up more. And whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So I meant to actually get rid of that thing. Um, yeah, okay. Okay, good. So here's a question from the biggest SP. Uh, where on the gold base is the analog project taking place? Well, it's mostly in the building 36, which is that manufacturing building that Mark Headley, when he talks about when he first arrived at Gold, he worked in tape manufacturing, which of course all of that has moved to LA. They don't do tapes anymore. They do the wonderfully advanced technology of compact discs. At Bridge Publications, they have a rather very robust production line that manufactures compact discs, spits them out like gumballs on a candy factory. Uh, so yeah, they do it basically in there. There's a lot of it going in there. They've basically collected. It's pretty impressive. They've collected um, every type of analog video machine from half every type of half inch, every type of VHS, every type beta, every type of 1 inch, every type of 2 inch, you name it, any kind of videos that exist that they have a tape in that format. They have the machines, they have them online. They're meaning on a production line, and they just digitize tapes to digital and because they're really good at that. They're good at that, and they're good at restorations. And I'm trying to see here. They did me a huge favor once where they owed me. I mean, I made those guys millions of dollars. Uh, Let me see. I'm just looking for something. I don't know where the hell it is. Okay, sorry about that. No, I have to tell you, I had during the time when I was at home working during during COVID, and I did this project, pretty amazing project. I went through all of my years and years and years of stills. I took from the 70s forward. I took hundreds of rolls of still film when I was working in commercials in Hollywood before Gold. I used to take what are called short ends. We used to shoot on 35 millimeter film, and then you'd end up with a piece of film that was maybe 50 feet or 100 feet. It wasn't enough film to keep shooting with because it's like you're shooting a film and you have 100 feet left, but the next scene you're going to shoot is a long scene, and the take is going to be like 106 feet. You're going to pull that short piece of film out of the camera, and you're going to keep it in the can. It's still usable. And then we used to take those, what we call short ends, and we used to load them up in a little machine a hand crank machine that would put them into 35 millimeter film cassettes that you could then put in a still camera. And then there was a place across the street that developed it and printed it. It was really cheap, much cheaper than buying a roll of Kodachrome. So I shot tons of film on motion picture stock, which is beautiful film. And I had all of this, hundreds and thousands of slides. And I spent months. I got a decent scanner, and I spent months scanning it all myself. And then I had like 10 minutes of film that my father, who was a kind of a camera bug, he was an architect, so he used a lot of photography in his work. We always had a darkroom at home. We were like a real camera photocentric family. And I had this wonderful reel that was deteriorating of film, 16 millimeter film. My father had shot one. Maybe I was 8, from the years of like 6 to 10, right, years old. And I knew it was deteriorating because it smelled like ammonia, and that's what film smells like when it's falling apart. And so Gold they actually did me a wonderful favor. Hey, happy to see you. No problem being late. I'm just going to be here all night, so then that way nobody's late. Just kidding. But anyway, I sent it up there, and they spent months and months and months, and they used the full battery of their restoration power to restore my home movies. And I have this reel of film, and it is absolutely a treasure. And at least it was one thing that I finally got those guys to do for me without me having to be unbelievably obligated to them. It's a pretty amazing. I'll pull some of it up. It was clear. I mean, the first thing they did, they had to isolate it in a room all by itself because they were concerned in the laboratory that the ammonia leaking out would contaminate other film. So they designated an entire little room in the laboratory to let all the ammonia come out. And then people, like a team of people, went through and they cleaned it by hand. and they scanned it all and they digitally cleaned it up and they stabilized it because 16 millimeter film always jitters because it's such a micro format, and then they literally scanned every frame onto a TIFF, if you know that format, tagged image file format. It's a very high quality, very almost uncompressed uh, visual format, and much higher than JPEG. They scanned every frame on a TIFF and then reassembled it as a film. So it's like, and I have the whole thing. I have all the TIFF frames. I have the entire thing, and it's just me and my little sister running on the beach in New Jersey and going being kids, and it's really crazy. Uh, so yeah, I'll have to pull a clip out of that and show you because it's like, wait, we're getting some good stuff here. I gotta shut up for a second. Okay, so I answered that. That's where the analog project, and it's happening in other places too. I mean, I'm sure there's other places where it's happening. I couldn't tell you all of it. I just know that a lot of it isn't there. Uh, when I interviewed Jeff Levin the other day, I showed those Subway ads that he and I had done that I directed back in, I don't know, the 80s, and that he had scored the music for. And they scanned those. I sent them up the analog project before I left. I went, hey, can you scan this and send it back? And they're like, yeah, sure. Because it's so, I might as well take advantage of it. Okay, so here's a question from Mr. Crow. Do they still keep uncensored lectures archived, or have they scrapped them since they could be a bit too saucy? They don't get rid of anything, and there's no way. You're talking about the ones that they edited the racial slurs out of. They would never get rid of anything. It would just be considered an unbelievable act of sacrilege. It would be like a sacrilegious act. There's no way they would get rid of it. I don't know, like specifically. I don't have like any actual evidence that they save it, but I'm absolutely sure that they do. Hey, it's the original, man. They're not going to. Free Theater Project says, hi, everyone. Hi back. Okay. Patty B says, I love Reese and Mitch, but I'm not getting other than very different experiences and at Church Scientology, what they have in common. Okay, hold on. I love Mitch and Reese, but I'm not getting other than very different experiences in Church Scientology, what they have in common. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much of us. I'm kind of translating your message, but it's amazing how many of us are so disparate and from different backgrounds and had utterly different positions within Scientology, and yet we all have so many similar experiences. Like, it's amazing. Like, I listened to Aaron, and he worked at primarily service organizations, what we call service organizations that service the public. He was at ASHO, he was at AO, he trained at FLAG, so his experience is always service org. I never worked for a service org. I was never on staff at a service org. I worked at the international base, and it's and he knows a lot of people who also worked for service orgs like Reese, and they were much less isolated than we were at the international base. Like, I listened to him and the stories of the other people, and like they, even though they were in the Sea Org, they were like. We were so isolated, even though I would drive up there and then leave. So how could I be so isolated? But the intense pressure to interact with that organization, it curtails or prevents any other kinds of connections. So for 28 years, I was incredibly isolated, even though I was out in the world. I'd go home, I'd do something with my kids, or I'd do something by myself, or and I was out in the world, but I was incredibly isolated. It's amazing. It's definitely, I'll never forget what that's like. Okay. Cullaby said, a family friend told me that there was a call up for anyone who had old reel-to-reels. She never sent hers because she figured it was because Scientology was trying to get rid of them out there. Yeah, you mean asking for old reel-to-reel tapes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they were trying to gather up old stuff. I mean, one of the things that really pissed me off when they redid the books, uh, like in the Golden Age of Tech one, and they redid the books, and everybody had to buy new books and blah blah blah. Uh, they never did any kind of an operation to say, hey, pack your books up, take them to the org. We'll give you, a $5 certificate against your new books. And you would think that they would want to do that so that they could control the recycling of them. So, but they didn't. And I remember I suggested, and a bunch of people suggested, no, you're doing this wrong. If you're going to make people buy new books, you have to take their old books back because they're all going to end up in the dumpster. So as a result of them doing that program, there were like millions of Scientology books ended up in dumpsters and people saw them in the trash. So it was a horrible thing they did without knowing it, but they're not the smartest people in the, yeah. So what does this say here? Adriana B, how did your media stay up to date with trends while being in that bubble at Gold? Everyone described a media blackout after living in the basement government. Well, remember, I wasn't in the Sea Org, I was in the Twilight Zone. So I wasn't staff and I wasn't public. After I got divorced, like nobody would date me because it was like, you're never around. Like I was just not even eligible as part of the dating pool, such as it was, because it's like, why would I date you? You're probably just going to call me 10 minutes before the date and say, oh, I just got a call. I got to go up to Gold. And that happened a lot. So for me, there was no media blackout. I had a phone that was completely my phone. I could do whatever the fuck I wanted with it. Because I did special projects for OSA, I was kind of expected to keep up on all the BS and the end theta, as we called it, and all that other stuff. So, like I was 2 weeks after Jason Begay escaped, who was a good friend of mine when he did. He was one of the few people at Gold that the actors I met through that I became friends with, that hung out a lot. I was asked by Miscavige via Tommy Davis to give him a call. I've talked about this before. I've written about it. It was a really interesting conversation that we had. So I was not going to get pulled into ethics and get in trouble for looking at the internet. I would get in trouble if somebody said, did you know so-and-so just did such and such? And if I said, no, I had no idea, they'd say, well, you're not fucking paying attention. I could actually get in trouble for not knowing. So I had to stay up on all that stuff. Plus, I was, nonstop film fanatic. I watched tons of film all the time. I even put up a huge stink that my crew never got to see films. And I pulled out a reference from Hubbard called Art Series 8, which was part of his art series bulletins on how professionals or art professionals, the kinds of things that they're expected to do in order to maintain their professionalism. And one is watch a lot of stuff, you experience a lot of stuff in your medium that other artists and professionals do. So I use this as kind of a loophole so that I got all my guys were watching movies as part of their study on the weekends. But even with that, like I was then told by, their seniors, like, well, you have to make an assignment. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, well, you have to write up why they're watching the movie, what the purpose of the movie is, give them some context, some subtext, giving them an assignment. They all have to write an essay from the movie. And I said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is they need to reconnect with the joy of watching a film, because they need to actually go into a theater. God damn it, I'm going to go into the Russian theater. I'm going to pour popcorn on the fucking floor, and I'm going to put chewing gum on the floor, and I'm going to spill pop on the floor so they can feel the stickiness under their feet and the stale old popcorn center, and they could just remember what it's like to watch a film, because none of them are ever going to get enthusiastic about making films if they don't reconnect with that. Of course, they wouldn't let me do any of that. And I did have to give them as assignments, but at least, they got to see a lot of films. And I kind of felt that I contributed positively to their experience that way. But, so I'd go in, like, I'd have them watch, like, I introduce some different kind of films. So I'd go on to the internet and I'd pull down some, reviews from Scholarly Person, or maybe somebody who wrote for Film Comment, some thing. And I'd pull down an article, and then I'd have them all read it, and then I'd give them a little essay, and then I would get back like 40 essays. I walk in one day, there's like a folder on my desk, and it says, hey, you need to read all these and respond. And I'm like, no, I don't. So I never did. I'd kind of thumb through them, and if anybody said something particularly cogent. I'd make a note of that, but it was just like so stupid. I made them watch a film that everybody in the world needs to see called Sullivan's Travels. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you should really, the second that this stream is over, you should just go and find it on the internet, watch Sullivan's Travels. It's a Preston Sturges film. Preston Sturges, if you're not aware of him, he was a filmmaker who came to Hollywood, and he was the inspiration for Orson Welles. Preston Sturges was the first writer-director. He was the first director in the history of Hollywood who wrote his own scripts. And he came to Hollywood. He was just a brilliant writer. Somebody invited him to a movie set, and he said, I saw this guy ask for a cigarette. They gave him a cigarette and handed him an ashtray. He asked for coffee. They gave him a coffee. Whenever he walked from one position to another, somebody put his chair under him. And he said, I wanted to know what that guy does. And somebody said, well, that guy's a film director. And he's the director. And Preston Sturges said, I want that job. So he wrote some brilliant scripts, and he took them to Paramount. They went gaga. They were like, these are amazing. How much do you want for them? I'm kind of paraphrasing this. And he said, I want $1. And he said, $1? And I was like, you want to sell these to us for $1? He says, yeah, but I'm directing them. And they said, no fucking way. We don't, you've never directed a film. He took his scripts away and said, well, then you can't have them. And I don't know what the first one was, but if you've never experienced Preston Sturges, I mean, he was the first director, writer. He inspired Orson Welles came to Hollywood because of Preston Sturges. He was like, I want to do what that guy's doing. And he invented irony and comedy, like, the Coen brothers, like ironic comedy, like what the Coen brothers do. That was invented by Preston Sturges. And he was such an influence on the Coen brothers. A lot of you know this. You could just bail out. The film Sullivan's Travels, which I highly recommend you watch, because it co-stars Veronica Lake, who was my boyhood crush, and it's a film about a film director who feels he's making trash, and he wants to discover humanity and make a real film about the human experience. So he decides to go on the road as a bum. And he has to escape his Hollywood handlers in order to do this. He's framed for a murder, and he gets thrown in jail. He ends up in a chain gang, and then he winds up, making that all work out, and he gets out, and he makes this film called, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And so this whole Preston Sturges thing is why the Coen brothers made Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and why they named it that. And I think a lot of people know that. Maybe I'm just like saying something like everybody knows, but at least get the idea of what a huge, the Coen brothers are genius filmmakers, and their work is mostly, their body of work is an homage to Preston Sturges. So, but I had them watch Sullivan's Travels because the film ends, not a spoiler alert, but the film ends with reminding us all that the joy of being in a film together as a group, it's a kind of cultural tribalistic, in a positive sense of tribalistic, ritual that we engage in that really can lift our spirits in ways that nothing else can. So I made them watch this because they were all like, we're making Ron's technical. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't approach it like you're making a movie, it's really not going to matter. So anyway, that's kind of, I think, does that answer your question about how I stayed up to date with media? I wouldn't let it go. I mean, plus I think because I could do it, I had the freedom to do it, and they needed somebody who was connected and plugged in. So I got to be that sacrificial lamb who did that, and then they got to be the benefits of it. Who's this? This is creepy B5. Hi, friends and Mitch. And hi, Mitch and friends, because they're my friends too. Okay, I love this so late. It's actually early. Alarms just gone up to wake up here in the UK, and Mitch is doing a live. Tomorrow morning is gonna be at 10, so you can come back and watch that. I'll try to get a little sleep. in between because I want to be alert when I talk to Sterling because we got a lot to talk about. But yeah, hey, love Food Kitchen. Wow, enjoy your day. Mitch is very informative. So is This is from Mr. Crow. So is Janice. That's why I love to watch them both. I used to my brand when I was a gold because people were saying, "Yeah, you know so much." I'm like, "No, I'm just curious and I pay attention because I never really thought that I knew that much." So I used to say, "Well, it's kind of my slogan, my brand is I'm an inch deep and a mile wide." I didn't make that up, but I would rather be an inch deep and a mile wide than a mile deep and an inch wide any day. This is from hold on. I love archivists and all the technical aspects. Oh, well, boy, you should go to work for the church. No, they're really into archiving. I mean, they do some amazing work. If you've never gone to the Scientology network and watched, there's a documentary on there about the archival work they do. It's pretty amazing. It's also only something that absolute lunatic people would do. Okay. And this is Linny Banahan. We keep B5. Okay, good. That's an internal message across the chat. This is where you ever beat like, fuck you. No, I'm not that old. I'm just kidding. No, the beatniks were done by, I was like hippie era, not beatnik era. Yeah, so, but yeah, no, there used to be a beatnik coffee house called Pandora's Box, which was featured in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it was about a mile from my parents' house in Laurel Canyon. We used to walk down there on Sunday nights when I was 15 because they let you in and the Beach Boys were the house band. And so that was kind of exciting. I kind of wrote some anecdotes about that in my book. But it had been a beatnik coffee house and then it transitioned to like folk music and then it became more rock and roll oriented. And then the riots on Sunset Strip happened and they burned it down. So, but no, never a beatnik. But I will tell you when I was 15, I read William Burroughs' Naked Lunch. So but that was kind of a drug mentality thing. But no, never a beatnik. But actually, I remember beatniks when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, like 8, 10 years old, we moved to Laurel Canyon. And there was a very famous place called the Canyon Country Store, which Joni Mitchell used as a background for an album cover. I worked there when I was 12 years old. And when I was that age, it was run by a guy named Vaughn, who had a place called Cafe Galleria. And it's still there. It's just a different restaurant. It's called Ponche or something. It's a great little bistro. There's a market upstairs, 2-level place. But back then, Laurel Canyon, where we lived, was frequented by artists and beatniks, and they used to have art shows on the parking lot at that little restaurant on the weekends. And that guy would help. He would trade food. He would feed artists for painting. So the place was called Vaughn's Cafe Galleria because it was like a gallery. So I kind of remember the tail end of the beatnik era when I was a kid. But I did say I was 106, so I can't blame them for thinking that I might have been a beatnik. Okay, let me put this up here. No, hold on. I don't want, not that one. There's something I got to put up here. Okay, question. Did you hear Shalice from Cults of Consciousness say that when she was in some films up at Gold, you guys had the most efficient crew she'd ever worked with in all of Hollywood? Yeah, well, yeah. So here's the story. Yeah, I heard her say that today. She mentioned on her stream with Claire, she mentioned that she'd had a conversation with me and that she had done 3 projects for Gold. So here's what happened. She was interviewing, I forgot her name, one of the ex-Scientologists she interviewed. I was really fascinated because I also was married to someone who's from a Mormon family. She was never like really into Mormonism, but so I had a lot of kind of experience in-law wise with Mormons, varying degrees, from Mormons that were Scientologists to Mormons that were devout, and I kind of interested in it. So I was listening to some of Shalice's work. She's amazing. And so I'm watching, and there's this girl on who and then Shalif says, "Oh, I did 3 projects for Scientology. I went up to their studio, Golden Era Production, blah blah blah," and I was like, "What?" So I sent her an email. I said, "Hey, I was the director up there for like ever, and I'd love to talk to you about it." Unfortunately, we didn't meet when we met. And so, I mean, when you were up there, we didn't actually interact because I was at Scientology Media Productions. She was up there right around the time when Val hopped in the car and took a hike. We took an unauthorized Uber to LA. So strangest Uber ride in the world. Gotta everybody loves that story. I mean, Val is like, she's amazing. I saw her not long after I got out. I went and she was living like actually 5 minutes from my house, which I didn't with another person who had escaped, who was a good friend of mine. So I went down there and hung out with him. Anyway, so, okay, I have a really serious problem I have to handle. Hey, Winston, are you in the house? You better be in the house. Yeah, okay, I just needed to close the door because a skunk unleashed close enough that my living room, all my ears, my eyes started to tear up. I just had to make sure the dog was in the house. I don't want to deal with a skunk-soaked dog. So anyway, I contacted Shalise by email. We spoke on the phone. We arranged for an interview, and we did a wonderful interview. And we spoke about gold. And this is this is a general consensus. These actors we hire for scale would come. I mean, there were some films where I got them to pay like triple, quadruple scale so we could get better talent. But these sort of newish actors who are happy to do a day's work and drive 90 miles each way for $300. They come up there and they're treated incredibly well. They're treated much better than they ever get treated at their level on any Hollywood set, which would generally be low budget. They're kept in a very nice VIP space. They're fed. All of the rules are followed in terms of they get hour lunches, they get breaks. Gold is very careful about following the state labor laws and the industry laws on how you treat talent. Uh, excuse, it's a skunk is getting to me. So yeah, so Shalise and we spoke about that. I did an interview with her and her husband who sat in on it, who's also a content creator. He's a director. He's a great guy. And I was super happy that he joined because I really enjoyed meeting him. Hopefully they'll release our interview soon because it was really a good one. I spoke about what I believe is to be the Mormon church, not the religion, but the church's influence on David Miscavige in terms of how he took Scientology from being based on providing books and services to its public to make money to being 100% donation based or 90% donation based, because it just things he said to me over the years, and we discussed it because I think, he looked at it, he's like, this is just giving, the making money off of auditing books, this is hard work. And people sue you for making false promises and shit like that. Just get them to donate money and don't give them anything in return. Do it like the Mormons do it. And so we had a great talk about that and other things. But yeah, we spoke about gold, and I can't wait for it to come out because I really got her to talk about what it was like for her to have no idea where she was going and then drive into the middle of nowhere and then turn this corner and see these like rolling green property that was like just looked like a sparkling green, unless it was a certain time in the summer where gold is very green always, but everything around it is brown. And the stench of there's these dairy farms around there, and they keep these vast lagoons of like cow dung and like urine, and it draws flies, and it's just like, I mean, I first went up there, February or something, and my eyes started burning when I got out of the car. But yeah, we had a great talk about it. So yeah, that's no. So what is this? It's just common to have sleep issues. Okay, good. Well, that's your own internal conversation, which I'm happy to seeing you have, because yeah, I have sleep issues too, but we're not going to talk about that because it's like whatever. Okay, this says, in Theta, I love you all. So honored to hear you speak, Mitch. You can be honored all you want, but it's my pleasure to be speaking. So just remember that. Uh, New today on Mike Renner's blog. This is more Scientology hypocrisy. Thanks, Goldie. Got to check that out. Mike Renner's blog is amazing. Tina in the last 20. I have a 16 millimeter movie in the original Canon reel. Only one big reel. Who could help? If you're talking about digitizing it, I mean, I guess I could get back into Scientology and see if I could get them to do yours, because they probably have the best facility in the world for transferring and restoring 16 millimeter film. I do recommend you find a place to do it, because it's if it's important to you, it's going to deteriorate. If you open the can and it smells like ammonia, then you're on the clock for it just turning to powder. So and also, if you have it stored, if any of your old film is starting to smell like ammonia, you separate it, put it in a bag, and get it somewhere and get it away from all your other film, because that shit, it's like a virus that just will corrode your other stuff. But there's a lot of good companies that will transfer it. It's worth spending a little bit of money to do it. Okay, what does this say? This is, wait, what? What? I love that name. A question: how far Scientologists will get before they find out about the disconnection policies? Well, I mean, it's no secret. It's in this book. You probably think I have a whole Scientology library right at my fingertips, but I don't. I have 2 books, and I've shown them both to you. Dianetics and the Introduction to Scientology Ethics, also known as How to Run an Authoritarian Regime, because this book explains it all. But disconnection is right in this book. You can walk into any Scientology bookstore in the world and just buy this book and open it up. It's like, it's no big secret at all. But the point at which a person experiences it has to do with the configuration of the dynamics of what's going on in their life. Like, if they just get into Scientology and then one of their family members becomes, an SP or whatever, they're going to find out about it really quick. So, but it's amazing how, it's a perfect point of disassociation and compartmentalization. This, by the way, is the cover page, the insert page from the home study pack that I was doing when I left, which is the companion course to this one. But it's right in here. I mean, I'll bet you I can even, okay, just as an experiment, let's just do this. Let's just see if the word disconnection, if they've taken it out of the index. No, there it is. I don't know that you can see this. I should have probably scanned it. But it's right there in the index on page whatever of the index. And disconnection, definition of disconnection. Okay, from family member, not recommend, fundamental right, handle, or, yeah, that's the handle or disconnect. 206. Let's take a look at the definition of disconnection. But it's just like, they just, why are they lying about it? It's right in this book, which they sell. You could probably find this book on Amazon. Here it is right here. It says here that the term disconnection is defined as a self-determined decision made by an individual that he is not going to be connected to another. It is a severing of a communication line. Okay, so it's right in there. And they sort of trick you. They say, okay, you need to disconnect from all these people, and you need to do it in a manner that is self-determined. In other words, you are determining yourself that you need to disconnect. Now, you do determine that yourself. I mean, you realize that if you don't disconnect on your own self-determinism, we're going to kick you out. So we're good here, right? You're self-determined on this. And people are going to go, oh, yeah, absolutely. This is exactly what I'm going to do. So, but like the answer is, there's no set point at which they take you into a room and show you the alien bodies and tell you about disconnection. It just kind of happens when it happens. We had beatniks in Palo Alto in the 60s. Yeah, I'm sure you did. I mean, the Bay Area was just a hotbed of commies and beatniks. They kind of went to get together back then. Oh my God, I don't believe you're asking me this. Lenny Banahan, did you ever come across Manson and family? Yeah, I did. Believe it or not, this is so. I didn't put this in my book because there's a whole bunch of anecdotes in my book about the 60s and 70s. I mean, that was, let me see, that was the murders were in 69, August of 69. I feel personally that I was very connected to the Manson murders. For one thing, if you were in Los Angeles in August of 1969 and you had long hair or you looked like a hippie or kind of a rocker or you look like a flower girl or anything like that, when those murders happened, everybody who was not in your cohort looked at you like you could be a potential murdering maniac. The atmosphere in Los Angeles, especially in Hollywood, was chilling. I'll show you a picture of something. I'll pull a picture of what I looked like back then. So yeah, here's what happened. Here's my connection to the whole Manson thing. So we all know the not Brian Wilson, the Dennis Wilson connection. I mean, Dennis Wilson, the drummer for the Beach Boys, who I used to run into at Pandora's Box when I was 15. I mean, I have this anecdote in my book about taking a piss in a big urinal in the basement of Pandora's Box when I was 15, standing next to a drunken Dennis Wilson. And he was the only one that surfed out of the Beach Boys, like who actually got on a surfboard and went surfing. And he's, I kind of had a surfer. I surfed when I was a kid, so I kind of had the costume on, the uniform of a surfer. And so Dennis is talking to me like his pee is like waving around. I'm like, if this motherfucker pees in my foot, I'm going to be really pissed. Anyway, so we had this really nice chat, and I had these other encounters with Dennis Wilson over the years, completely random, but he was the one who opened the gate and let Manson in to the culture for him to have access eventually to the people that he murdered. Because famously, Dennis Wilson picked up two of the girls who were in the family, not the ones who went to prison, but two of the Manson girls. And Dennis then took them to his house in Pacific Palisades, which, if you know LA, if you drive Sunset Boulevard to the beach, at a certain point, you'll go through Brentwood. And in Brentwood, there's a place called Will Rogers State Park, named after the famous comedian Will Rogers. And there's a polo grounds there where, very bougie people play polo. And right across the street from the polo grounds is this incredible estate that's like a log cabin estate, but it's like an architectural masterpiece and it's huge. And that was Dennis Wilson's home in those days. So for some weird reason, one night I was with my older brother, who was about 4 years older than me, and some friend of his was, oh, hey, there's this party at Dennis Wilson's. Like, we would find out about parties and then we would just go. Like, it was the 60s, like late 60s. It's like, it was like, nobody was going to go, well, you're not on the guest list. It was before all that, like, bullshit. It was before influencers, okay? So nobody really gave a shit about that. Like, I remember going to a party up at some record producer's house up at Sunset Plaza and watching the Yardbirds play in his living room because, like, they were in LA and they wanted to play at a party. It was like, I think about that stuff now and it just like utterly blows my mind. So we ended up going to this party again. While we're on our way to the party, this guy says, hey, there's this really weird dude living at Dennis Wilson's, and he's like staying in a bus with a bunch of girls. It's a really strange guy. So now we're at the house, flash forward, we're at the house, and we're like bopping around Dennis Wilson's house because it's like, whoa, rock star pad. And we're just like marveling at all the, this wealth and, those people stoned everywhere and like, half naked. And it was just really a scene like out of Babylon. And so we walked into this room and there was Charlie Manson sitting in an overstuffed chair. And the Tex Watson was sitting on a bureau to our right. because I felt something and I looked over my shoulder and there was a guy sitting there and there were two of these girls. I would have to look at pictures to remember which ones they were. So then you're probably wondering, how did I know it was Charlie Manson when I walked in the room? Well, I didn't. All I know was a really scary guy with like jet black shark eyes. And when we walked in there, they stopped talking and they just kind of gave us this look like you are in the wrong fucking room. And then we just slowly backed out and it was chilling. Like literally the hair on the back of my neck stood up. That guy was so evil. So the murders happened like a month later. And we were like, that was Shirley Manson. We walked in the room and it was Shirley Manson. And then weirder, I had a very dear friend. His name was Paul Barrera. He was the lead guitarist in the band Little Feat. We grew up together. We played in bands together. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. His girlfriend at that time lived on Cielo Drive with her parents, 2 doors down from the murder. So we were there at we used to hang out at her pad like every weekend. Your parents were wealthy. They had a big house. She lived in like a guest house over the garage, and we could go in there and smoke weed and stuff. So I had these immediate associations with it happening. Plus, as I said, if you were sort of in that, costume and in that subculture that looked anything like the Manson family, you were just like, you were looked at like, if you were, are you an acid? Are you going to kill somebody? I mean, he single-handedly ended the whole hippie era, like the whole peace, love, and understanding. Like, what's his name? Doris Day's son, the target of the murders who wasn't home. I just can't remember his name. The one who leased the house to Roman Polanski. He left town. Terry Melcher, he was a record producer, but he left town. He just split. A lot of people actually left LA, like people in the movie business and music business who were wealthy, who thought they could be targets of whatever was going on, literally all ran off to their vacation homes. It was really crazy. So I appreciate you asking that, because that's my one weird connection to the Manson. Now here's one from Petty B. No, you're a flower child. I actually remember seeing my first beatnik too. I was 4, downtown, a man with long hair and a beard. I asked my mom what he was, and she said, a man who thinks he's Jesus. That's funny. Yeah, I guess we were kind of flower power. I mean, I never identified as a hippie. I kind of identified more as a drug-addled music, whatever, because I played in bands and I was more like kind of a fringy artisty kind of thing. But, I wore those like Beatle boots, and I had like bell bottoms with stripes and blousy shirts and hair down to here. And I'll pull a picture up sometime and show you, and you will absolutely freak out. From when I was in that film when I was 22, that film Dusty and Sweet Spaghetti, if you want to see what I looked like at that time. I was 22 then, but this was when I was 19, the Manson things. So I was a skinny, long-haired kid. But yeah, Patty, you got it. I was definitely in that flower child thing. Okay, this is from Joni Cummings. Question, Mark. Oh, so I think this is to me, but it's Mitch, but that's okay. Since you've been out, how does it feel to tell your story? Well, I think it feels great. It's like I've been able to connect with it. I can't believe how much stuff that I just kind of compartmentalize and just, especially like my having survived drug addiction and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm done with that. But it's one thing to say you're done with something. It's another thing to actually process that. So take my word for it. Okay, fair enough. Men were still in hat suits. My next question: who is Jesus? Jesus, yeah. If you watch The Big Lebowski, you'll find out who Jesus is. He wore bowling shirts, late 50s. Yep, you got it. Patty B says late 50s. That's an interesting comment from Adriana B. Most Scientologist actors have a great reputation on Hollywood sets because they were punctual and prepared. Yeah, I think that's part of I think it's part of the training of the Scientology, of the acting schools that are run by Scientologists. I know I worked with, when Milton Consolis was around, I worked with a bunch of his students. And Jason Gay was a really good example. And they were literally boot camped in acting class about the importance of presentation, punctuality, And the funniest thing was like my particular way that I like to direct actors, and I think maybe other directors do this. I don't know because I don't really talk to other directors, but I always give direction one-on-one, and I never say it across the set or say so that other people can hear it. It's a very personal communication. If I want to make a suggestion or talk to them about it, I will walk on there, we'll walk off the set, maybe off to the side, and we'll have a very private conversation. I mostly don't want the other actors that they're playing off of to know what their direction is, because you sort of lose some of the moment. Things become a little less authentic and a little real if everybody is sort of sharing in the same thoughts. And if I want to say, you better knock this shit off or I'm going to fucking throw you off the set, I don't want anybody else to hear that. I want them to walk in and just exhibit that fear because that's what I wanted in there for whatever. But the reason I'm saying this is that the Milton Casillas students like Jason and some others who are very good actors, they all do the same thing. They'd listen. You call them over and you want to give them some direction. They'd nod. They'd listen. Okay. Never ask a question. They'd listen. And then you were done and they'd look at you right in the face and they'd say, thank you. And then they'd go off and do it. And it was like, well, if somebody did that I didn't know, I was like, oh, they're studying with Milton, because every one of them to the one. And I think he taught them about it. He said, listen, when the director wants to give you a direction, you go over there, you listen and you thank them and you go back and you execute. So yeah, they're very disciplined. That does not surprise me at all. Yeah, that sucks. I used to have a cat. This is a free Xeno project. I used to have a cat that loved to go after skunks and apparently didn't mind the smell. Yeah, they pretend they don't like. Maybe they can't really smell it. I don't know, but we used to have a cat that would tangle with skunks, and it was horrible because then they get sprayed and then they run in your house, and they're like a freaking bomb that just went off, and then you have to grab them, throw them. Hey, come here, Weston. Come here. You have to grab them and throw them in the bathtub, and then wipe them down with hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and like kids shampoo. That's how you do it. Come here, Weston. Everybody wants to say hi to you. Come here, Weston. Come on up here. Come on. No, he does not like to be picked up. They love you on YouTube, Weston. You're like a champ. Come here. Come on. Yeah, there you are. Okay, here we go. Oh man, you're too heavy. I can't hear. Come here. Come here. Oh man, he does not. He does not like being picked up. Do not eat anywhere. There he is. Yeah, in case nobody knows this, beagles. If you want a lap dog, don't get a beagle, because they're like, no way. Anyway, there you go. There you go. Okay, we're gonna put him down. Okay. So yeah, the smell is weird. Hate that smell. Tip 45 says my dog got skunked. I use peroxide, Dawn, baking soda, and PU. Yeah, I would. That's the actual formula. Some people think it's tomato juice, but that's an urban myth. I'd watch the Dawn. What did you say? Dawn. Yeah, because it can really sting their eyes. We used to use no tears, like the baby shampoo, because you really got to watch getting the shampoo in their eyes. So they're really messing with them. In Theta, I got sprayed in the face by a skunk once. Okay, so we're going to just move on. I can't even think. That's too much information. I can't even imagine what that would be like. I have the movie on my Plex server. I'll check it out. Thanks for the recommendation. I assume you're talking about Sullivan's Travels. I'm hoping you'll check back in on a later stream and we can talk about it, about how, if you talk about the film, because it's a really amazing film. And you have a Plex server. That's crazy. I didn't even know anybody used that technology anymore. But hey, why not? I mean, it's rock solid technology. But this so much stuff is available on streaming. There's almost no reason to have I don't think, to have a. Yeah. So. Yeah. Hey, Weston. Free Xeno Project says you're cute. Yeah, he's really cute. He doesn't always act cute, but he always is cute. Jessica, hey Jessica, I don't think I've seen you yet tonight. My cat was sitting on my neighbor's kitchen floor all day, exhausted. Beagles are there to get your ass in shape. Oh, right. You have Apple is having codependency issues. This is, say, TMI. No, it's not too much. You're free to say whatever you want. My fellow Beagle owner. Oh, wow. We've got that's two Plex. Okay, good. Sullivan's Troubles. That's definitely the one. And Jessica Rutledge says, Beagles rule. My Beagle is loud and proud. Can you believe how loud their barks are? Jessica, do you find that sometimes you just, ow, they bark and you're like, ow, like it's literally painful? A Plex server it's a type of software. I'm probably wrong about this. It basically it's like a media server. It's a type of media server. It's a front end for, let's say you have a bunch of media stored in a drive, and there's a piece of software that's referred to as Plex, which could then index all of those titles and give you access to pulling them up. So if you collect a lot of video files and you need a way to serve them up, Plex server, I think, is a great way to do it. I messed around with that technology a little bit, and then there's just so much stuff streaming, and it's like, why mess with it? I mean, the world is now your Plex server. Okay, this is from what does it say? Gnome Sane, I think it's Gnome. Question: what interaction, if any, did you have with Wise businesses? None. It just wasn't. I always thought Wise was really stupid, because they were like dentists and chiropractors. I mean, who hangs out with those guys? And I always thought Wise was like a scam. I thought it was like, that was one of those things I compartmentalized that didn't sort of mix with who I was and what I was all about. But they were kind of just the suits. I mean, I did some work for, like, I remember when the Hubbard College opened up, I did some video work, some presentation work for, make it look good, right? So, but I didn't specifically interact with them. There's no way that I ever, if I would have continued on with my business personally, that I ever would have gotten involved. Hey, look at this. This is great. That summed it up nicely, Mitch. Works great for streaming your stuff on the go, on the phone, or in the car. Yeah, that's true. And it's still compatible with a lot of stuff. I was kind of an early adapter. I had a NAS system, a network attached storage system at home. I still have one. I have like a, I don't know, 16 terabyte drive. So you could put all your videos on there. And then there's actually, that system has it doesn't have Plex, but it's a Synology. I don't want to get geeky, but it has its own front end server for media. But I could also just load a Plex server on there and use it. It's interesting technology. But if you were an early like Apple TV geek and you were really into creating your own streaming environment on your own network at home, that's the way you went. Okay, this says Mark early tonight mentioned Dave Miscavige micromanaged the hell out of Battlefield Earth. What was your experience, if any, with that? I thought I answered this the other night, but I guess maybe you weren't around. I didn't have anything to do with the film, and I actually wasn't aware of the micromanaging. I found out about it later. I did go to a post sort of right after the film came out. There was an event at Author Services, and I was invited to that. It was on a weekend when I was home. Blah blah blah. So I went there and I met Roger Christensen, the director, and I talked with him. And I didn't know that he was literally giving him notes every day, because he was giving me notes about the films I was doing. So, but I had no idea that he was actually giving me notes. But it didn't surprise me, because Miscavige doesn't have taste. I mean, I think it's something Mark and I are going to talk about the way he channels other things to make decisions and to have taste. And then as soon as he knows those things, he becomes the arbiter of those things. It's very invalidating. But Roger Christensen he's a really nice guy, but I kind of got the perception, not to say anything to impugn him at all, but I mean, he never apologized. The guy who wrote the screenplay literally said, He apologized for writing the suckiest movie ever made. That's a quote. I forget the guy's name, but Christensen was just kind of like, he took his Razzie Award and accepted it graciously and all that shit, but he really should have apologized because it's such a horrible film. But he seemed like the kind of guy that, it was a real opportunity for him to make this book from a famous author with a famous actor, although he'd done some film work, but he pointed out to me that he'd made a few films before that. But he seemed like the kind of guy who would bow down to authority as opposed to Ridley Scott or even an unknown headstrong director who's just going to say, screw you. This is, sure, I'll do your film, but it's my film, because that's kind of what your role is. And fortunately, the industry, especially under the auspices of the Directors Guild, it makes it really impossible to get rid of once you put a director on a film. It's very difficult to fire them. It's if it's a DGA film, it's really hard, and they have these rules, these crazy rules, like no actor on the film can replace the director, and that comes out of some film Sylvester Stallone was doing, and he decided a couple of weeks into it that he didn't like the director, so he tried to pressure the studio into firing the director and let him direct her. And the Directors Guild went freaking nuts, and they just passed a law that said no actor on a film can ever replace the director. So they have a bunch of crazy rules that are basically all about artists' rights and so forth. So, Roger Christensen, I'm assuming that was a guild film. He could have stood up to Miscavige, and he would have been backed up by the industry. He could have said, no, I'm not going to take your notes. This is my film, and you hired me, and I'm a member of the Directors Guild, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if he was, because he was British. So maybe he was just here on a work permit or something. But you could tell that he wasn't the kind of guy that was going to just stand up and say, no, who had that kind of integrity, because you can't build a career by taking orders from the studio or from an executive in a corporation. That's never worked out for anybody. And you might be interested to know that likewise, it's very difficult for a director to leave and take his name off the film, because a lot of these names are valuable. Like, some well-known director gets hired on a film and decides, you have the right, when you get hired to direct a film, to cut the film as you want and give it to the studio. That's your right, first cut. And then they can cut it. They can actually, without consulting you, they can re-edit it. And then if you don't like the edit, and you can say, you cannot release a film with my name on it. And then the rule goes like this: okay, but you can never say that you directed the film. And then they have a designated name, Alan Smithy with 2 E's. And then the director of the film becomes Alan Smithy. And then the person who took their name off the film is not allowed to talk about it. So it's, that should have been an Alan Smithy film, because it was that bad. I think you can look it up. I think there's been 5 films directed by Alan Smithy, and someone made a film about Alan Smithy as a fictional character. It's kind of really funny. It's a very inside baseball thing. Okay, so that's that. And oh my God, we've been on for 2 hours and 42 minutes, but okay, okay, no more questions, because I got to wrap this up. Because I'm about to pass out from starvation. But you guys are like manna from heaven, so it's not like I'm actually going to starve. Okay, so this says, 245 says, okay, thank you. Seen it, couldn't remember where, LOL. We are all over the place. Oh, yeah. Well, Joni Cummings, I am still in pain, and I hope that is short-lived. Speaking for Never Ends, we love this story. I'm not sure which the story is, but thank you very much, because there's been so many stories flying around. I just can't tell. Okay, Tiff 45 says, so sorry, guys. I have chronic illness, and also I run a support group on Facebook. It's just one little step at a time, gently. Well, we're all here, and we're all behind you, and we all understand. So best of luck on your journey. This says, Johnny Cummings, I am glad Mitch showed us Weston. Yeah. I have a little surprise video of Weston that I'm going to show soon. I just have to cut it. He did something extremely funny. Really cracked me up. I have to share it. I think you're very welcome. And I'll get my monetization turned on, and anything you can do to help support me so I don't have to go get some shitty job. And then I can't do this anymore. And this is kind of what I'm living for right now, because I really feel I have a burning passion to clear the planet of Scientology, to sort of use the tools that I used so generously in its behalf to kind of turn that against them. Hey, do you remember the movie 4th of July? I remember when, and who was it? Or Independence Day, I'm sorry. I think it was Jeff Goldblum who, and I have Jeff Goldblum stories because I knew him for a while. So sometime we'll talk about this. He said, I think it was him who said, they're using our satellites against us. Anyway, that's kind of how I feel. I feel like I'm one of the satellites that's finally being turned against the mean freaking people. Joni, you're very, 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 very thanked for that. You're very welcome. Wish you the best. You too. Oh, that's the tip 45. Yeah, we all wish you the best. Absolutely. Okay, good. So this is like a major bro hug amongst dudes here. That we share this passion, which is like, boy, once you get on it, that's it. So, okay. So we're going to wrap this up now. This has been absolutely incredible. I really just wanted to go on for 20 minutes and give you guys some news. Thank you for helping me get monetized. Tell you about the Indiegogo link. And just let you know, I'm going to be talking to Sterling Tompkins in the morning, and I have some really good stuff coming up. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and you guys have been absolutely amazing. So for me and Weston, take care of yourselves and take care of one another. And good night. And you're very welcome.